Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 199 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I'm joined by my morning Mets brethren, Lord Cognito. I'm going to jump right into it, man. We got a write-in here. It's from Drew. We had a lot of write-ins expressing condolences, sending love our way from fellow Guardians fans, just fellow baseball fans. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who were hoping and praying last week that our baseball openings would stop, I'm here to tell you this is our last one. So you get to enjoy this last one with us. So, Drew, you got the write. He says, "Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Apologies for the long writing, but I wanted to write about your beloved Mets. Don't let these insider, dweller, gamer dorks stop you from praising your beloved Mets." Kidding, of course. As a Nats fan, I had a begrudging, insane respect for this team, as they had an insane run and blew past their wildest expectations this postseason. To be honest, I thought they would still be in it late into Game 6, but the Dodgers are the Dodgers after all. Just wanted to give you guys a write-in to allow you to spout poetically about the Mets. Gamers, please, you have to understand the Mets have been Metsing for so long, a.k.a. clutching defeat from the jaws of victory, a.k.a. anytime I play a MOBA. The Dukes have earned this. Max Scherzer told everyone that the Mets gave up on 2024, only to go deeper into the playoffs than his team did this year. Though, granted, the Rangers did win the World Series last year, so he may have been on to something kind of day. Love, Drew. Thank you, Drew. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Drew.
Cog, open us up in our final Mets talk for the season. What do we got here? How are we feeling?
It was bittersweet because it's a magical carpet ride, right? And it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. It's the bad news Bears that had no chance. That was the worst team in baseball. You know, they get to the playoffs and they do this magical run and just are beating titans of teams. And then you go up against the Dodgers. So, like we said last week, game one kind of put me in perspective because we got smacked really hard. I was like, okay. And then we came out game two with the punch in the mouth. So I'm like, oh, wait, it's not over.
That's where we recorded our show. And I cursed the whole team saying, like, I think we got this. And I got tweeted at someone of the Walter White meme where he's like yelling for the car, like, no, stop it. Like, he's like, there's like Maddie talking about Mets versus Dodgers as we proceed to lose 2 in a row in like blowout fashion.
But to your credit, I mean, after the 1-1, you figure we got 3 games at home, momentum swing back in our favor. And to me, the key game was that first game because I remember the game was teetering. We had bases loaded a bunch of times and couldn't score. We couldn't just break through. And I'm like,
story of the series, honestly, it's crazy how winnable it was. You know, we got blown out, but it's crazy how many times we were able to get back into it.
Yes, and the chances were there. So at that one, I was like, man, I don't know if we're going to get more opportunities like that. And then they did. They gave us one more where they gave us hope, where they're like, all right, you ain't going to end it on Citi Field. You're not going to end it on, and I love that about them. Yeah. And then everybody kind of got back up like, yo, we're going to go back to LA. We're going to win 2 in a row. Like, it's coming back game 7, that type of game 7 energy, and it just ain't happened. So, look, am I disappointed because the run is over? Absolutely. It's sad, but we got to be real. This is house money all day. Yeah. This is ahead of schedule all day. This is how I look at it. Because we had such a great run and an amazing gritty team and Lindor looking like the superstar of all superstars, like it just feels good for the future. It feels like, okay, now all you got to do is put some good pieces around this and this theoretically should be like the next wave for us, right? Because we were ahead of schedule. So that's how I'm looking at it. And I was a little disappointed in the pitching, though. I was a little disappointed. The pitching kind of let us down a little bit. But as far as everything else, man, and Mendoza, I'm really sold on him. And I love what they did with this team. So I'm good. I think that we just need like one big bat. Kind of help out the lineup, and then obviously re-sign a couple of guys. But Cohen I don't know if you saw Steve Cohen's messages on Twitter. He's really proud of the guys. surprisingly, someone who had the best tweet had nothing to do with baseball. You know who John Mayer is? The singer? Bro, he had like this he said the Mets inspired me. And, like it was a movement.
Heartfelt. Yeah,
it was hard. It was a heartfelt movement. The oh my God, the grimace, all this foolishness. But I gotta be throwing a little slack. Shout out to the Dodgers because they're a good team. They're a really good team. I don't want to disrespect them. I just want to say slander on the social media. Bro, they was wild disrespect. I don't know if it was ESPN. Bro, they had grimace laid out. Oh my God, the Dodgers. I'm like, come on, don't do that. Don't do that. So that shows me we were bothering people by winning. We were annoyed. Like, Shaw's like, wow, Mets really get hated a lot. I thought everybody was kind of like a feel-good story.
It's a perfect team for us to love with the show we host. It really is the Xbox energy through and through. Like that celebration of failure is just so real in everything we seem to love here.
Bro, I had hating friends calling me, texting, dancing on the grave. I'm like, damn, like it's like we ain't getting no love for you. Like, damn,
like any other team's like, hey guys, great run. First comment I saw was like, we're gonna see Grimace like hitting Fent out back now. I'm just like, dude, like, are you fucking like that's the first thing we say about like a Cinderella run like this? I was like, man, come on.
People hate the Mets.
It's crazy.
That's all I can say. They love to laugh at the misery. That's what I realize about people. And I guess the way I'm raised, even if, I mean, you got to be a mortal enemy or you got to be wild disrespectful for me to be like at your lowest moment of a moment, like, yeah, that's why your mom died. Like, damn, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not in my personality to do that. I always feel like you give it up. And even the Dodgers, like, that's a good team, bro. That's a good team. And we pushed them to the edge. So I'm super proud. I love what we're doing. And next year, I think we'll get these 1 or 2 more pieces and we'll see what's up. But I'm ready. What was your final assessment?
Oh, dude. I mean, you got to just be happy about what they did. The thing that was the big change is just the winning culture. Like, that's all it was, really. Like, we've been saying for a while how they just have loser mentality. Again, back to Xbox. I think sometimes they got just straight loser mentality. And really, I feel like in the last 5 years, the Mets have started to steadily turn that around. This is the first year you thought, like, dude, anytime they got blown out in any game prior to this year, I was like, all right, like, it's over. But this team just always fought back. And like, there was always like, even in game 6, I'm like watching us get smacked. I'm like, we're still in this. We're down 6-1. I'm like, we're still in this. I'm like, that's a level of fight that this team is to overturn years of failure like that in one season.
You nailed it.
It's almost as important in a lot of ways for the franchise as a championship would have been, right? Instead of just a magical run, just a real shift in the mentality of the players.
Yes.
I think we're just
culture.
Like the bottom half of our lineup just is not good.
Yeah, Alvarez, he's getting on my nerves.
He picked it up. He picked it up in the last 2 games,
but he was becoming like an automatic strikeout, and I was just like, bro.
when he threw the fucking bat, I was just like, this guy needs to like bring in Terrence. Like that's enough's enough. I couldn't stand it, man. But he picked it up. He did his part in the games that truly, I guess, counted. Right when we were losing, he was getting on base constantly now.
Yeah.
And it was just like that, Nimmo could barely walk as someone who had plantar fasciitis. Like I was like, yeah, him playing on that's the real deal. Iglesias cooled off, he cooled
off. The Cinderella in the game off.
Yeah. We all saw that coming, but just was hoping he would hang on for longer. McNeil was like, I don't know why he was in the lineup, bro. I
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love McNeil, but no, not this run. He was just like, dude, the guy was ice cold. His strikeout in game 6 was the most demoralizing thing I saw when the bases were loaded. I was like, nah.
I know, because he's not 100% right. He's coming back off the injury. Then you're being thrust into playoff baseball.
Yeah, like the highest level you could play.
The highest level.
Like he was set up for failure.
Yeah. No, I get you. But you made a fantastic point, which is the culture, because us being fans, we're so accustomed. All right, they're getting smacked. It's over. This team, every time they're down, you're like, they can still pull this off. And sometimes they did. So that was, you're right. That part I've never, that winning culture. Like we finally had that, like, yo, at any point, don't get too comfortable. We could come back on you and scare you up. And that was the energy I love from the team the most.
So yeah, great season. Lot to be happy about. They pulled me in. Remember I told you, I was like, I'm not watching. And then they pulled me in. You and I were talking. I was like, I'm not watching this shit. And they just kept coming back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna gently buy in. And gradually they won the hearts of many. So Great season. And
Absolutely.
of course, it's all going to come down to the free agent frenzy. Will we get Soto? But
Yes.
I'm going to put it out there. Congrats to the Dodgers on winning the World Series. Fuck the
Ooh,
Yankees, bro. I fucking hate them. So,
put it out there.
yeah, I don't. I
No
grew up in a
Yankee
house of
energy.
Yankees fan. My wife's a Yankees fan. I hate Yankees, bro.
I didn't know. Oh, so you kind of got a Colin thing going on because Mike is, or what you call it, she's New England with the, as far as the Patriots, and he's Jets. So I didn't know.
Oh, dude, no, like it's honestly not the team. I love the team, the culture, the way the Yankees themselves carry themselves. No problem with the players. Their fans, insufferable. Actually insufferable, man. I can't, dude. They were like the beginning. I was in the high school. They were the beginning of like the type of fan where it's like, you're not on the team, bro. Like, you're not on the team. Stop acting like you're on the team. It's like, yo, I know I say we about the Mets, but like, look, man, I've suffered with them. But like, when people are like, we got 5 rings, who's we? Who's we? You weren't there. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a culture. It's a vibe with them for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'll timestamp that so everyone who's complaining in the comments, you have every right to skip over it. Now we move into our actual intro. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Defining Duke at Xbox Podcast. Each and every week we gather to talk about what's going on in gaming, and there's a lot happening in the world of Xbox. We have console sales splits. We have the Fallout Day stream to get into. Netflix games, AAA studio shutdown, meaning there is a big AAA free agent on the market in Joe Staten. And also, we have a conversation to have about PlayStation and their interest in purchasing exclusivity for Crimson Desert and what that may mean for the future of the Xbox brand, plus much more in the games we're playing. And of course, accompanied by all of your wonderful write-ins, which you can put in over on patreon.com/LastStandMedia. Head over there, get early. Pardon me, I had an egg sandwich before this, so I'm going to burp it up a little bit. Early, ad-free access every Thursday. You'll find us there. Otherwise, we'll see you on Sundays, where we'll be on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube, all that fun stuff. We have a quick writing here from Fred Durst, Death Hoax, who just got around to last week's Summon Sign with Maddie a bit late. Just here to co-sign on Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. I think Maddie would especially find the part on Star Wars 1313 and the external factors that affected it particularly interesting. A book I must recommend, however, is Doom Guy, Life in First Person, a semi-autobiography by John Romero detailing his childhood, the founding of id Software, and his time making Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake, and the ill-fated Daikatana. id is a legendary, influential studio, and to hear detailed accounts from a man so deeply involved in most of their greatest and darkest moments was fascinating. Plus, the audiobook version was narrated by John himself, which is very interesting. I didn't know that. I've been on a little bit of a reading kick with gaming books, Cog. Normally, I'm reading like a self-help book or just stuff that, I don't know, I feel like enhances my life. I don't really read stories, although I've been all in on Red Rising and I'm almost done with Golden Sun. That's been amazing. But I've had this urge to write. I won't say what. I have a number of gaming book ideas that I want to do. And I decided, well, I kind of want to see what other books on the gaming market exist. And so I bought a bunch in Kojima's Creative Gene one, because I wanted to get in his head a little bit and just see like what he writes about himself. Ascawada was another one. And then also Reggie Fils-Aimé's Breaking the Game, I think, or Disrupting the Game.
Yes, I have it. I haven't get to it. Yep.
And obviously Schreier did 2 or 3 books now that I want to check out. Because all of them seem very good. I have not checked out any of them yet.
Yeah, they're good.
And I told the audience on Amazon, I was like, I was looking around and there are gaming books, but I feel like in the terms of expertise and history and deep dives and personal accounts, Cliffy B has a book as well. There's not a lot out there in the scheme of things for how popular and big gaming is. And it kind of lit a fire in me where I was like, I want to read all these, of course, to just like, I know a lot about video games, but when it comes to like the history of the industry, the deep rooted history of the industry, I'm like, I don't know if I actually have that deep rooted knowledge that is required for someone who wants to work in here for the rest of their life. And I kind of want to, right some wrongs in that regard, because some stuff was before my time, like this book about Doom Guy that was before or during the upbringing of my time, so to say. But as I was like looking around at some of these books, I was thinking like, I had these ideas that I think are really good. I was like, I feel I can address needs.
Okay.
And so it's definitely like a post when I'm done writing the script of my game thing, but I was like, I can definitely begin research phase now, but I want to just see what everyone's written and see like what's been covered, what's considered good, what's considered bad. So I've been reading, because the one I was least interested in was Creative Gene by Hideo Kojima, because not even him. I like Kojima. I was actually excited at first because I was like, oh, I get to understand him more. But after I tapped through the first chapter, I was like, okay, this is not going to be what I thought it was. It's just like reposts from his personal blog, and a lot of it, like on the back, it's kind of like, learn about the movies, the games, the books that inspired Hideo Kojima. And I was thinking it was going to be more of like when I was creating Metal Gear, I was reading this and it made me think about this character in this game, and kind of getting into the deeper philosophy, the inner workings of like how he made what he did make.
Right.
But instead it's like, oh, I read this book and I thought it was really good, and here's why. And sometimes it does get personal. Like he talked about his dad's passing at one point and how like a book got him through that. And that's cool. Not the situation itself, but like obviously, how he like we all do. We have entertainment or things, worlds that take you away from your pain, your suffering. And that stuff is interesting because you get into his head a little bit. But other times you're really not, outside of like understanding his head is just extracting extremely deep meaning and value out of things that sometimes I don't even know if the intent was that from the person who wrote or made that thing. I guess that's the beauty of art, right? It's up to the eye of the interpreter. And he is very much the definition of that. But it's been an interesting read in that regard. I'm 200 pages in. It's a 250 page book, so I'll probably bang it out this week. But I definitely took a few days off because I was just like, I was like, I'm struggling already, man. I had this goal to read all these books. So I'm glad I started here. But I appreciate the suggestion, Fred, because I've been trying to just build up a stock of books. It's been fun. It's been exciting to kind of see the pile growing and just start sifting through them all. And maybe one day get started on my idea come 2025.
Look, man, there's a lane for you. I mean, I feel it great. I mean, I think I've tried his books, both of them, the Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. The Cliffy B book was good too, but I love Jason's book because it's what you would like from an investigative reporter, and then how things really came together, and sometimes how things fall apart, and very surprising because a lot of times it's not what you think it is, and I love learning that stuff. So I would highly recommend Schreier's books for sure.
Yeah, I really want to read them because I'm very curious about how he tells this story. Like, is it just information, or does he add like a little dramatic flair to it? Like, it's like those little things I'm curious about as a creative, but also I've heard fantastic things about it, and so I do want to check out what he's done there, because
Cliffy B's book is good too.
Yeah,
his is really personal, and his psyche, getting in the industry, a lot of self-reflection at certain points of development, and
that's the stuff I'm there for. That's what I'm very
Cliffy, I feel sounds like what Cliffy B's book is more what you, I think, look like you may be searching for from a creative, like how that whole process is from him from start to finish. And Jason's is more informative, investigative, but on a deep level, and he segments it in all these different, here's the Bungie chapter, here's this one, here's that. He segments it, as opposed to the new one. I think it's more about the fall of Blizzard. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but I've read his other one.
Just came out.
Yeah, that one just came out. So I would based on what you said, I would rank Cliffy, then I would go into Jason's.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's just, it's fascinating just how I feel like we have such bright minds in our industry that it's so surprising how few of them have taken the time to share kind of the tell-all journey. Like, where's the Todd Howard book, for example? Phil Spencer book would be a fascinating one. Sean Layden, I feel like all of these leaders in the gaming industry should really consider this sort of stuff. The stories that they could tell be incredible. So
incredible. Yeah, you got, in my opinion, you have to wait for them to kind of be out the game.
Yeah, of course, not Phil Spencer. Yeah,
they're still protective of certain things. That's why I'm very fortunate, because Peter Moore told me. I even asked, I was like, man, I'm so thankful. Not only you came on my show and, our show, and, you came on twice. And he was like, no, I'm glad we did it because I've been putting my thoughts together. This is helping me put my thoughts together for my eventual autobiography because he wants to do it. I was segmenting it in that style. I didn't know that ahead of time when I had him on both times, but I was wondering why he was really getting into it. And he was like, no, we're definitely doing part two. And you know how people Hollywood they say they're going to come back. I was thankful he came on one time. Yeah. He kept his word. He came back on the second. Then we did we did the Sega phase. We did the Microsoft phase. Then we did the EA phase, the owning Liverpool. We did the whole thing. And you could tell he was like, yeah. And I asked him, I was like, really thankful for it. But he was like, yeah, I'm really going to do an autobiography. He said, your interview style and the way we did this, it really inspired me to get going on it. I was super thankful, man.
Awesome.
He's the man. I can't speak highly enough about Peter Moore.
Yeah, I will be reading that immediately.
Oh, it. It's going to be fantastic. That man don't pull no punches.
Yeah. That's what I'm so excited about, right? Like, he's just going to expose some shit.
Bro, he going to let you know.
Yeah, I appreciate anyone who's tagged me. I saw some LSM commenters tag me on Discord and let me know some books that they would suggest. And so, yeah, it's a small pile, but it's a good pile. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to chip through all of these books.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get into the gaming news, Cog. Circana's Matt Piscatella has shared new stats with US Xbox users, and they're all Team Digital. At the time of recording, 91% of US Xbox purchases are digital. On top of that, the Xbox Series X accounts for 51% of Xbox console sales in the US, whereas the Series S is at 49%. Specifically, in September 2024, it was a 58-42 split in favor of the Series X. Mr. Scott, if you're nasty, has the first right in here. Dukes of New York, according to a Windows Central article, Xbox digital sales represent over 90% of the split with physical sales. I don't know about you guys, but this split shocked me. And I'm someone who hasn't purchased a physical disc in like 3 years. In 5 years, does Xbox even sell physical discs? And how expensive are these going to get for collectors? Have I cursed my favorite baseball team by spewing Halo hate kind of day. Okay, all right. Well, let's relax.
God, what's going on?
Cog, what is our thoughts here on you're Mr. Digital? So What are our thoughts here on Xbox kind of being a little, I think stats are vindicating them a little bit. Like, look, I'm team retro, team physical all day, but the door had to be open on a conversation of just like how heavily skewed the digital purchasing is for them. Now, this is just one market, but also remember the US is Xbox's biggest market. So I do think a lot of decisions they've made in their digital push have been vindicated here, showing a 91-9 split. That's
wow,
absurd, man. So, Cog, as Team Digital, if you will, the representative, what do you think?
The representative. I'm not only a spokesman, I'm a client. But no, look, it is surprising to see the raw data, right? You're like, man, 91%. That means the majority of their base has no problem downloading digital games, not buying physical games. Also, we have to plug in the Game Pass factor here, and the thing that really kind of cements and justifies them is the fact the Series S, because when the split is 51, 49, half of your base has a Series S, right? Which does not come with a disk drive, and it goes to show you again, outside of the noise in the echo chamber that is social media, right? Where people say, hey, who wants this or whatever. That's what their base is, right? So you have the Series S justifying the digital push as well as the quote unquote less expensive SKU, right? And then you have the Series X, which has the disc, right? And is technically the more powerful system. And it's neck and neck kind of thing. So it goes to show you people don't really care. People don't really care. And I think that you're starting to see, I've always felt this about Xbox. A lot of times they get a lot of heat because they're too aggressive to be first. They're too aggressive to trailblaze sometimes, right? But in this case, it seems justified. And we're starting to see now with Sony, when you come out with the Pro and, the disk drive is, you can get it, but you can get it after. So companies are seeing it, but they're just not willing to be as aggressive as Microsoft is. But yeah, we'll see. I guess the next question for me will be, the cloud stuff, how that plays out in terms of adoption rate. Do people go there? Obviously, this third party push that they're doing, that's another big bet. Does that, because I still have reservations. I'll be honest, me and you talk about all the time that, my thing now is not that I don't want them to succeed. And if that helps them, be sustainable, I'm fine with that. The only question I have with the third party stuff is, the first party games going on to third party platforms, is that at some point, which like when you do the burger shot, fries and shake with Halo, Gears, and Forza, at what point do you lose your identity right? Because you could sit there and say, yeah, you could buy it on our platform, but then some people are like, well, what's the purpose of your platform if you are literally everywhere, kind of thing. So that's the questions I have. And I still think they're internal fighting for their soul in the building. And that's just my theory. I still feel that some are questioning stakeholders to be aggressive. So we will see. But all in all, yeah, very surprising to see the number 91%. Very, very shocking to me. I was just like, wow. The
You got to
majority of the
imagine this
base.
influences what they do with their next system, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd be very surprised if it comes with a disk drive at launch. That's at least where my head's at. I'd
I
be
mean,
very surprised, especially when you're seeing, like we talked about last week, we have some more news this week. Xbox is really kind of getting the whole streaming tech into full swing now, like where you can play anywhere, anything. Those sorts of things are happening right now in real time. We're seeing the Fire Stick, as we've talked about extensively, Game Pass getting everywhere, Xbox games getting everywhere. Now you see this, I'm like, well, you're talking to the guy who's like the market for physical games. It's like,
yeah.
I see 91.9, I shrug my shoulders and go like, well, I know it's not worldwide, so I know it's going to be very different in different parts of the world, but this is your biggest market. I wouldn't blame them if they were like, well, why are we going to spend the extra, especially if you can offset, right? Like if you're talking about keeping hardware prices low, you look at what the PS5 Pro just went through. It's like, can we lower our cost by keeping a disk drive out of this thing? Especially, in the case of the PS5 Pro, that's the bonus, right? You buy the peripheral, you buy the disk drive. So maybe that was PlayStation trying to lower costs as well. Who knows? But it's definitely something I feel like Xbox is probably going to leap for first in the terms of a new gen console without a disk drive.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that again, it's always all the stuff is data driven for these guys. Once they have the data, it's a wrap. I could sit there and complain to I'm the guy that loves collector's editions when it's my favorite game, but it's clear what's happening here, and then it's clear as far as like I remember using an old stat of Dolby Digital in the back of the Xbox One or whatever, and I remember that was removed, and I'm like, yo, what's going on? You guys are not taking care of guys with home theaters. And they were like, the data shows it's only like 10% of you guys that actually utilize that feature. And I'm like, really? Like, so again, the things that as hardcore gamers, we have to realize that, the industry is changing and they now have the justification to accelerate said plans is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how Xbox adjusts to this, if at all. But yeah, I think you're going to see disk drives become less and less of a thing and more of a, maybe a peripheral. Do you even think Xbox would do that? Right? Like that's the question I have they barely get support from, say, limited run games, right? Like they barely do anything for that. Then you see these splits and you go, okay, I kind of see why. And as someone who does shop at limited run, I don't really buy Xbox things. Like they did Pentiment physically, and I bought it for Switch because I'm like, that's where it made the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Xbox still gets a cut of that. They don't care, right? But at the end of the day, they're not really good at fostering a physical games community. Where do you even think the peripheral would be worth it for them? I feel like for Xbox, if their mantra is play anywhere, anything, access your library at any point, they probably still want to do that because many people have invested physically in their library. For many people, these discs are still product keys that let you access the software on your box. So I think they probably still will. But do you think that's something that they'll continue to do?
We just got to be honest. The thing that saddens me, to your point, is as a guy who loves a good collector's edition, right? And I forgot it was what was it? Me, you? Yeah, it was me, you, Chris Raygun, and we did a Stelly, right? And we had this segment. We were called like the topic was like our favorite special editions.
Yep.
And me and you were just pulling stuff out. We like, yo, this is my favorite here. Here's my Halo thing. Here's your thing. And it's like, if you're on the Xbox platform, that's not going to be a reality for you because when it's time to do collector's edition, when it's time to select platform, you're going to see PlayStation and Switch and Xbox like digital, only kind of stuff, as opposed to getting those physical things. Because I can't see a world where it makes sense for them to continue to support that, just to be honest. And that's the part that's sad because I do love that stuff, especially when it's a franchise or an IP that you really care about and you want that physical representation of it. That part is saddening, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. But you see 90%, you're like, damn, don't care about this.
It's a risky bet in some regard to kind of walk away from that stuff because when you digitize further, I mean, we can't pretend that hype is in a massive part of this industry, bigger than I think anyone cares to admit.
Mm-hmm.
I think like hype is toxic and leads to like bad games doing better or whatever, is like a whole conversation unto itself. But when it comes to like, if we're talking just corporate Maddie, corporate cog business,
Yeah.
is like anything that strips hype away is going to hurt your bottom line, because like,
Mm.
think of just how propellant that is. Like you look at,
Mm.
we'll use Baldur's Gate 3 as an example. Funny enough, a digital only game at first. But,
Mm.
we'll just use that as an example of just the snowball effect, the avalanche that it turns into, as more and more people continue to talk about it and get excited about it. And when you have the merch tied to that, that's more money in your pocket.
Mm.
The physical goodies, that's more money in your pocket. So I hope they don't walk away from physical collections. They were like one of the first to do a physical collector's edition
Yeah.
without a game within it. I think it was State of Decay 2. It had
Yes.
everything except the game. And I remember being like, what the fuck is this? And a lot of my audience was like, well, I already own the game. I just want to buy the collector's items. And I'm like, maybe that's what Xbox does. But we're talking Rap Guy's in the building now. So I don't know.
He's in the building.
So I don't know, man. Like they're not doing one for Black Ops 6. I don't know what they're going to do something for. So yeah, I don't know. Fingers crossed that Xbox makes all the right decisions, that we're never upset again.
Yeah, good luck with that.
All right. Next up here, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on this. A Black Ops 2 sequel is in development. No, not that one. Tom Henderson has a scoop on Call of Duty 2025, and it's said to be a semi-futuristic Black Ops 2 sequel. Remastered Black Ops 2 maps will be arriving to the game for its multiplayer, but apparently the scope and plans for the game have shifted quite a bit. Included with those remastered maps will be new maps as a response to people calling Modern Warfare 3 a glorified piece of DLC. The game will introduce another overhaul to the movement system, the return of the Pick 10 class system, as well as the gunfight game mode, and another year of round-based zombies. Cog, your thoughts on this, right? I mean, this year's Call of Duty campaign, I mean, it's going to be out by the time this episode goes live. I haven't played it yet, but a lot of people are very excited for it, because 4-year development cycle, apparently the biggest campaign yet, just a lot of hype behind it. And it looks like they are kind of passing the torch in a really smart way. I mean, you take one of the most popular Call of Duties and you make a sequel to that. I mean, there is a Black Ops 3 and a 4 and now a 6, but you make a direct sequel to that story. You got something there for sure that I think a lot of people are going to get around, because if we couldn't tell, Call of Duty is a juggernaut. Call of Duty is a beast. These remastered maps are a complete fucking gold mine for them. The fact that the scope, quote, expanded from them we're just going to remaster all these maps and call it a day. The fact that that's the scope expanding to like, oh, we'll make some new ones. Yeah, you're going to say that this is just DLC. We're going to show you. I'm like, God, dude, like the floor is lowering in some ways, but the standards are also raising for things like the campaign. So I guess you can't have your cake and eat it too. But this is a series that is just becoming more and more about nostalgia bait. Like, how many Call of Duties have we gone through where it's like the return of this, the return of that? That's what was so exciting about Black Ops 6. I'm like, this all looks like the things I love, but it's new. Like the omnidirectional movement system looks really cool. But like, oh, return to Pick 10, round-based zombies are back. It's like they intentionally get rid of shit just so that they can have their moment 3 years later where they're like, it's back, and they're like, we got you again. Remember that thing you loved? It's back. And as a nostalgia freak, like if I'm seeing this, I wonder what other people are feeling. But nonetheless, I campaign-wise, very interested. Multiplayer-wise, I mean, I'll play Black Ops 6 for sure, because again, they're doing a lot of new stuff there. So I'm going to play it like it's a new video game. But this one, I'm just like, not. I don't know. On paper, we'll see though. What are your thoughts on Call of Duty 2025 with what we got here?
This is surprising. Shout out to Tom Henderson. First off, I'm super pumped for Black Ops 6. And, just for the fact that I came into it like, yeah, Call of Duty, whatever. Yeah, I'll just see it because it's on Game Pass. But remember when we had that direct, I was like, wow, they really cooked. Omnidirectional movement, everything that I saw from it, including the campaign, and then obviously getting a chance to play the multiplayer. I haven't played Call of Duty multiplayer in years, and I was having a ball. And you know how I feel about that got you now system. Like, I thought that was really cool. And then you throw zombies. So I have a natural bias towards Black Ops as a series, right? Now you talking Black Ops 2, which is pure nostalgia bait. Pure. Like, I am the guy who fell in love with the Pick 10 system. This 10 classes, that's my era. I was like, oh, this is the greatest feature. It became the infighting battle between the teams. Like, are you an Infinity Ward guy or are you a Treyarch guy? And look, I think they're getting a lot of positive feedback from Black Ops 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want to keep that train going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is definitely nostalgia, man. It's almost like the MCU. Oh, something's going on. All right, let's bring Robert Downey back. Let's bring Thanos back. Like that's what's going on. Like this is, you got to understand, the stakes are so high right now. Remember, this is the most critical week, probably in Xbox history. This is the bet. This Call of Duty being in the service. So I think all of these moves are to maximize this bet on whatever happens, whether it gains more subscriptions. We're going to learn a lot in the next month or so. So yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do the off year where it's like, okay, let's go completely another route. You know what I'm saying? I know it's futuristic and stuff like that, they're saying, but it's still Black Ops 2, a sequel kind of thing. So if they execute, I think it's gonna work. People say what they want when they see is, yo, that's my map. Oh my god, I remember. I know how these dudes do.
Oh, of course, yeah, it's gonna work. It's gonna
work. The dudes talk all like that, and then they see it and they go, yeah, we put like 1,000 hours on that, fam. We're gonna get the crew together. You know how that go. So that's what I think is gonna happen here. But we will see. I was surprised to see this.
Yeah, it's very interesting that before we even got the newest Call of Duty, that we have a leak for the next one. But here we are
already.
Here we are, video games industry at its max capacity.
Mm.
All right, Cog. Well, we have another leak here. This one comes from Rebs Gaming, who we've talked about in the past with their information on the future of Halo. And they have a new report on Certain Affinity's Project Ekur, which is formerly known as the Battle Royale mode for Halo Infinite, codenamed Tatanka. Now, in late 2022, he says the project was canceled, but then is said to have been rebranded into Ekur. Now, Halo Studios, formerly for 343, doesn't have much insight on the project, so it's possible the game doesn't exist at this point. But Rebs Gaming source claims that Tatanka may have actually been ported into Unreal Engine 5 and that it actually might be an extraction shooter. Certain Affinity was recently acquired by Keyword Studios and are said to have multiple unannounced projects in development. All right, man. So how do we feel about this, right? Like there's a lot of calls for Halo spin-offs, different Halo experiences. Let's say this project's still alive and well and kicking, and you're getting a Halo extraction shooter. Just on paper, what are our thoughts here? Do you like the sound of that? Does that sound fun and exciting to you? What are you looking for in the Halo spin-off verse that would be better than this potentially?
I was kind of liking the Battle Royale, to be honest, better than this. So, this extraction shooter really doesn't do anything for me per se. Yeah, in fairness, I would need to see it and see how they execute it. But I think for me, I'm just more sad in that, Halo Infinite, we know it's not going to be any more major content. This is to be the vibe I'm getting. This is now moving towards the next in Unreal and learning in Unreal and doing something new. I'm actually more concerned about the Certain Affinity part. Certain Affinity has been a huge contributor to them. And for them to now be acquired and gone, that's a big studio that's, that's been around, that always helped them out. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they had something to do with Warzone. I'm not sure. But they've always been a major contributor to the franchise. So yeah. I don't know. These things can be changed. There's a possibility that this is still canceled. This may have been, deaded back then as well. So we'll see. But look, if they're still doing a spinoff, yes, I'm going to encourage it. Yes, I want to see something different for sure. If it's a new mode, I will try it. Extraction shooter probably not on the highest on my list. No,
sounds
you know what I'm saying?
A separate game though, like not even a mode. It just sounds like a separate game. And
I mean, yeah, good.
I don't know. Like it sounds like they're just trying to take the scraps of something they invested a lot of resources into. And I think there's something to be said about them saying, provided this report is real, like we're not going to release this with Halo Infinite. We're going to take this and make it its own separate thing and not give that game another shot in the arm, because maybe they're looking at data saying like these new modes or these new maps aren't boosting our player count. And what would be better for the franchise is just to make this a full separate release. But if they're going to do that, then this has to have legs, right? Not just like in support, but progression.
Right.
It probably needs modes within this mode, right? Like not just, oh, it's an extraction shooter, but like, what do you do within this? Is it a big open map? Is that the idea? Is it going to be, what part of the Halo universe is going to be based in? Who are you playing as? I think the who of it all is going to be a big part of this. Like if it's ODST extraction shooter, that's going to be huge, man. I think like a lot of Halo fans could latch on to that. That could be a really fun idea. But if it's just like you're on the Halo ring and you got to get Cortana and then escape the ring or something, it's like, okay, it's that probably will like send a lot of people the opposite way. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep an open mind here because I like that they're at least getting into the starting phases of like bringing Halo beyond Halo Studios. And like you mentioned, Certain Affinity has been a big part of really what Xbox has been doing for a while. We know they had that Project Suerte in development
Right.
at some point, a Monster Hunter style game that was for Xbox. You got maybe this mode, like maybe that's why Keyword Games or Studio, was interested in picking them up. They have a lot of big projects in development, but all of them are unannounced. So yeah, I'm trying to again keep an open mind here if it ends up being true. But extraction shooters never really lit my fire personally.
Yeah, me neither.
What if it had like a little campaign attached to it?
See, that's what I was gonna go. Like to me, this only works if you're talking about a PvP only component. Unfortunately, I feel like Halo fans are conditioned to what I consider suites, a narrative based something in conjunction with a PvP thing. I've never seen them do like a PvP standalone kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think a single player or a narrative based standalone thing would be more appealing for them. You know what I'm saying? The kind of deal. So look, in fairness, I'm trying to be open minded. I don't know what it is. It could be the most fun and addicting thing ever, right? But as it stands on paper, I am not excited about some standalone PvP extraction. Like, for whatever reason, I keep thinking about that damn Rainbow Six. Remember what was that? Remember Ubisoft dropped
Rainbow Six Extraction.
that shit. I just like, I'm like, how'd that go for y'all? You know what I'm saying? Like, so to me, Halo has such narrative ties and weight that if you're going to do spinoffs, in my opinion, the focus should be narrative and single player stuff first.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And flesh out this universe as opposed to go ahead, guys, shoot them up.
Yeah. I guess there's two ways they could go about this, right? And one is weird is that you have like Halo is a campaign standalone app. You have Halo Infinite multiplayer standalone app. And then you have another PvP experience that's just a standalone app. I think that is just a really weird way of doing it. Do they look at the Call of Duty hub and go, oh, it's all here in one? Now you got the whole family of Halo. You got Master Chief Collection, Halo Infinite Story, and multiplayer, the PvP mode. Kind of take a page out of their book. Maybe, I mean, I'm sorry for suggesting this to everyone's hard drives, but that's one way to kind of keep them a little bit unified and all in sight at once. Because it feels like for Call of Duty, like there's a lot of people excited for the next mainline entry, but that also impacts Warzone, which many people also have installed. And so maybe that does something, right? Like maybe that's a way they could approach it. But I just feel like if you're going to fragment like two PvP experiences for Halo, I mean, it'll definitely draw attention just by name alone, but I feel like it's a long-term silly move to just continue to fragment that multiplayer base, because then your next main line is also going to have multiplayer, right? So now you have three bases. What's going on there?
I agree.
So we'll see what they do, but interesting report from Rebs Gaming. Now, on the rumor mill, this one was funny, but we had to talk about it. We got some write-ins about it. Aaron Greenberg had recently been accused by YouTuber Porta Al Sotano of saying at a recent event for Microsoft Flight Simulator 24 that, quote, nobody cares about Banjo Kazooie, end quote. Now, he did take to Twitter where someone suggested it was sarcasm and said, quote, correct. I absolutely know how much Banjo Kazooie means to our fans and gamers everywhere. It holds a special place in my heart growing up playing these classic games, end quote. The Uncharted Wolf writes in, what's up, Dukes? Do you guys believe the statement about Aaron Greenberg that was shared around about how nobody cares about Banjo? I find it hard to fully take the word of a source that just said they heard him say it at a Flight Simulator event. Thanks for all you do. Cog, your thoughts on the dastardly deed from Aaron Greenberg?
I can't believe this is a thing. Like, it's kind of funny to me. Like, you know, if it was said, like, my thing is, even if it was said, like, to me, Xbox has shown they're not doing Banjo. I hate to say it. Xbox has shown to me that they're not doing it. So even if it was sarcasm or not, you know, I get it. Banjo Bros, I get it. Y'all been suffering, bro. Y'all been suffering. Y'all been wanting this game, and they playing games with you. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Now, in his defense, maybe it was a joke. It was sarcasm. I all I will say is I feel for y'all. Y'all
Mm.
going through it. You know what I'm saying? So when you hear stuff like this, you ready, you got the knife out. And you ready. You like, bro, if I see you, you say this disrespectful thing again. You know, so the fact that he had to do it on Twitter, you know, it's kind of funny. But look, even though it may be sarcasm or that, I don't feel they have interest in doing it. There's
Yeah.
too many opportunities for them to have thrown the Xbox community this bone and say, yo, it's in development and studio, blah, 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 is doing it. And for whatever reason, internally, in my opinion, they sit there and say, yeah, but who's going to buy it? And I think they're just floundering on it would either be profitable and who the studio that they would do it, because it should have happened a long time ago, in my opinion.
Do you think the sales of Astrobot change any thoughts on that? Because it beat out a lot of sports games. Number 2 in the September charts. Very impressive. Very impressive. So
yeah,
you think they look at that and go, well, there's a market for 3D platformers, or is it just a market? By the way, exclusive too.
Exclusive. You got to give PlayStation that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the Madden month.
Yeah.
Madden was number 2. They beat, what was it, FIFA FC or whatever. They beat Madden. That's a multi-platform game in month 2 of the football. Bro, you cooking with fish grease. You have to give it up. So look, to your question, that's the hope, right? The hope is now we have a proof of concept. If you do a great platformer and you make it a love letter to your base, hey, people might actually support it.
And Banjo would be multiply, no? So like, you think at least.
You would think, right? And again, provided it's done with the care and the love of that franchise, and it's there for them. You know me, I'm this creepy dad. It's not me, right? But I know the importance of that game and those style of games on the platform. You can't be the dude, bro, shoot a box 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to especially it ties into Game Pass. Don't you want a diverse style of game? They've been fantastic with that, and to their credit, you know, strategy, RPG, Western RPG, FPS, sports, they're good at that. But that's a missing one. I feel like #just1 games and family games.
Yeah.
Those are the missing, you know, chinks in the armor as far as your diverse portfolio, so to speak. So I do root for the Banjo Bros to say, yo, you need to make that. Like, come on. Like, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm usually not in that camp of like the Xbox sympathy camp where they're always like, of course this is happening. Like, you know, the victim complex that a lot of their fans have developed. But like, I look at this and I'm like, man, this will only happen to them. Like, he said, she said bullshit making headlines. Are you fucking kidding me, man? I don't know. I feel like that's ridiculous and borderline unacceptable that I got that much fucking traction. This guy had to make a comment about it. It goes back to, because at a point, I'll admit we were part of the problem in validating like the fears and concerns of like, you know, see like what happens. You guys aren't talking and look what happens. And so like Xbox fans are right for being upset, but they also get upset about everything and they react to everything. And it's clear that, you know, if you're going to report on something like this, I wonder why you would do that. Like, look, we can't act like all reporting is genuine. I don't care if it's for the blue team or the green team or whatever fucking team. We can't act like all of it's genuine. And I see this sort of bullshit. I'm just like, come on, man. Really? This got traction? He might have said this thing at an event. I have no proof of this. It's just, I heard it. That is like, we used to laugh about that shit on like 4chan scoops. Like, that's like my dad used to work at Bethesda type energy. And this is actually gaining traction enough that like we're getting write-ins about it and that there's headlines about it. That's absurd, man.
Yeah,
undeserved. All right.
I agree.
I don't like it at all. I think it's silly.
I agree.
All right, Cog. Next up, Xbox cloud gaming improvements have leaked. According to Tom Warren, Xbox is working on direct-to-cloud controllers, more cloud gaming features, and visual improvements to the stream quality. So like we mentioned earlier, man, with that digital push, you see these improvements are coming in week after week, report after report. We still have that controller that we talked about where it's like lift to wake, and it connects to the cloud. So this sounds like maybe a continuation of that that was in development. So any thoughts on these cloud gaming improvements that Xbox continues to pound away at?
Yeah, no, love it. That's your vision. You have to continue to foster it, culture it, especially latency. That's my thing. You have to hammer that down because again, your competitors in the space, the GeForce Nows, and then even the Stadias when they existed, the 4K, they had very robust feature sets. Whereas you're like, hey, we're in beta, you know what I'm saying? And we were kind of getting away with that for mad months and, mad years kind of thing. So I like this doubling down on the cloud features, the doubling down on the visual improvement, especially stream quality, because again, the coolest thing that they have is, hey, you don't want to play that game. You don't want to download that to your hard drive. Your hard drive is messed up. Bro, you can stream it right now, to your console or your older console, stuff like that. I think that's a huge part to them. So, and then we talked about the controller, right? What was it? Code name? I forgot. Brooklyn. I forgot. What are those code names?
Yeah.
That, we started to see how they were having that, the stream to wake, all these kind of cool features to really kind of hone down and make the synergy with cloud even better. So yeah, they've got to do more of that. This is a big part of what they're doing. So I do like that they are not abandoning that part.
I agree. Yeah, I like to see what features they continue to add to this, because I think, as I've said before, without coming across too repetitive, I think this is just a massive, massive part of their future. It's important to watch because I think it's going to be pushed very hard when their next generation rolls around. But direct to cloud controllers is what excites me the most, which interests me the most, just to see how that functions, how that works.
Yes.
So.
Especially with their TV initiative as well. I was just thinking about that. And the Fire Stick initiative. You need those controllers to really knock that wall of latency down. And if they can really improve that, and again, are we going to be playing, Call of Duty multiplayer? It might not be for that, right? But as long as
I think
never know,
they want to get there, right?
They want it, right? Yeah.
You can do that. You can do anything.
Yeah, if technology continues to improve over the years and you start to break those barriers down on latency and game modes and all these things, then you become viable in regions and places that you weren't before that wouldn't buy your console. And I think that is key for them in conjunction with the marketing.
100%. All right, Cog, next up here, Arrowhead has commented on Xbox versions of Helldivers 2. They say here, quote, "Who says it," and as in Helldivers 2, "couldn't come to Xbox? It's not up to us, but to Sony and Phil to duke out. But hypothetically speaking, if both partners think it would benefit them from a financial/brand standpoint, it could. If Sony believes it won't, though, it won't," end quote. So, as expected, the decision lies entirely in Sony's hand. Do you think they will play ball with Xbox on a Xbox version of Helldivers 2? This is one of the, if not their biggest game of the year when you really look at it, with just the player count, the way it took over, the popularity. So do you think they eventually use Xbox as a shot in the arm, kind of like how Xbox has done with their own games? Or do you think this always stays exclusive to, at least on the console side, PlayStation and PC, of course?
I'm gotta say no. Yeah, I don't see Sony playing ball with them still. Like it. Listen, I get that's Microsoft's strategy. Sony, their entire business is around that PlayStation brand. That's the most successful core of their business. And they have given every indicator. Look at their lineup this year. As much as people, come at me for saying, yo, they're having an off year, whatever. I'm talking about from a first party perspective. But if you look at their year as a whole, it's great, right? You go, okay, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, time exclusive. Stellar Blade, time exclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've got I think that Phantom joint is coming. Obviously Astrobot is theirs, salute. But like, they've made all these strategic moves, Silent Hill, right? Mm-hmm. Strategic moves that make it seem that something is third party is theirs, right? So that shows to me they value the optics of it not being multi-plat or sharing with you. Right? So they're still on that type of time, kind of thing. Xbox can kumbaya all they want, but Sony is like, nah, bro, we're not there yet. So yeah, that I in terms of how Helldivers look, would it be financially beneficial for them? Yes, because it is live service. It is multiplayer. It would boost it. But I think Sony values the optics that is a PlayStation game, and they're not willing to play ball on this particular title. And I think it's a weird deal. I think they helped them out in development or help it get across the finish line and stuff like that. So when you have that level, no, it's different from the Bungie thing, from where Bungie came in from the beginning saying, hey, we're developing for everybody. And in order to be part of PlayStation Studios, you're going to have to accept our terms kind of energy. This ain't that with Arrowhead. Sony took a chance on them. You're bringing it to us, and we ain't keeping it. You staying over here. Don't you look your eyes over there. You stay over here. Yeah. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, it's It's cuffing season, right?
Yeah, it's conference. They wifed that up. They made a fantastic choice. Like this is our game of the year contender that I forgot about at the at the showcase at the Dukes versus Sacred. I was like, why did I blank on this one? I was so mad at myself for that using.
It's still hanging with you. I'm surprised.
It's still bothering me. I'm like, bro, how did I not think of? Because you know what threw me off? Now that we can talk about it, we legit said game of the year contenders. We had like Tekken, we had like Infinite Well, and they was like, nah. And I was I should have thought with a sacred symbols mindset.
Yeah.
And then I would have been safe. So that was my own.
That audience bled blue. That's for damn sure.
Love y'all, listen. That was a fun one.
All right. Well, next up here, Cog. Hot button topic for the Dukes. People have disagreed with our takes in the past, but an Xbox version of Black Myth Wukong has been spotted on the ratings board, the ESRB. So it seems like that is about as good of a confirmation you can get that it's on the way, and it'll be announced shortly within the next couple of months, probably at the Video Game Awards, maybe something like that. Would be a good spot for it. What are our thoughts here? That it seems like it's finally coming to Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, timing, very Baldur's Gate 3 energy, you know. Guess they had all the time they needed for the Series S port. I'm just joking. But look, as we will discuss in another topic, you know, I am a firm believer that yes, there was some form of help or assistance to, you know, get this thing across the finish line on a Sony platform, and that's all well and good. You know, Sony can do that. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I just think it's interesting that they've never debunked these accusations. I always felt that was interesting. But yeah, it's good to see that Wukong is going to come. You know, a lot of people, my boy E loves that. Oh my God, so many people love Wukong, bro. Like really do. So it's going to be cool to kind of get that. And I do want to see Series S performance. That game from an optimization standpoint, even on the big boys, even on X, even on PlayStation, it's a little rough for a certain thing because people told me it affects latency. So hopefully, you know, they sent Jason Round on the Xbox ninjas over there to really maximize whatever's going on over there. Send them ninjas because y'all need all the tech support y'all can do with because Game Science, it's their first time. They I mean, don't get me wrong, the game was beautiful, but it is not optimized well, from what I understand. So
it's very low on my playlist personally. You know, I just
kind of Souls out.
Well, a lot of people argue it's not even like a Souls-like game. It's like a huge back and forth thing. It's like Boss Rush. No, it's not. It's an adventure game. It's an RPG kind of. No, it's not a Souls-like. I don't know what this game is at this point, man. I've watched whatever they've given us at like State of Plays and whatever, but it has a Souls-like camera angle. That's all I need to be like, all right, you know, like maybe later. You know, there's a lot of other games on my list this year that I still want to get around to, like Kunitsugami still on my list. For example. Like,
just did a fire Sacred Symbols.
I saw
Colin Hogue. Oh my God, we waxing poetic on that joint. Like it was cool to be around my people.
Yeah, I know, right? Not just talking to me as I just like, I'll get to it, Cog, I swear.
No, but shout out to you because in our internal Discord, you know, when Colin asked and you shot up for me, you like, yo, Cog be going hard for that game. So
I mean to volunteer you. I don't think it come across that way if you were like busy.
I love that you did it because I would have missed it because you know how my Discord is crazy. My texts, my DMs are crazy. So if I don't get an @ I would have missed it. So when I got the @ from Colin, then you said what you said. I was like, oh, thank you, Maddie, for saying that because I would have been a part of that. So thank you.
No problem. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong, if it comes to Xbox, which it seems like it's going to soon, I hope those who have been waiting for it do end up enjoying it. A lot of people really do like this game. It seems like a good one. So
set pieces are fire though, Maddie. I will say that. Like all I would highly recommend, like just watch the opening. Like,
well, that's the thing is I have the element of surprise on my side, so I may as well just savor that for whenever I do decide to play it because I don't think it looks bad. It's just not what I'm looking for in a game right now. Is how I would describe it.
Fair enough. All I would say is that even as a person that really doesn't play those type of games anymore, the set pieces was so magical and epic. I'm like, yo, that's impressive stuff. Like you kind of got me hooked on that one. I'm like, damn, that's cool. Fire.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to try it eventually. As for like the if you will, exclusivity or whatever, like we've debated much. I'll talk about that as well when we get to what's going on with Crimson Desert and just talk again. The only thing I'll just reiterate is what we talked about, which is that it was never like an outright fucking accusal of what PlayStation did, but more so just that I understand and respect if they were incentivized, they as in PlayStation where you're incentivized to keep Black Myth Wukong in some way, which is what we've always said from the start. With that clarification I love this quote from Bloober Team, man. I want to talk about it. In a new interview with GameSpot, Bloober Team said something quite bold, quote, "Okay, we made some shitty games before, but we can evolve. It was tough for those couple of years before Silent Hill 2's release. They made it, we made it, Bloober made it, and now it's very good spirits inside. We want to show what we can do on our own, how we can evolve our ideas," end quote. So at least they're self-aware. This is a really great step, I think. Like, Silent Hill 2 is, I think, my game of the year. I really got to take a look at everything I've finished. But yeah, I beat it this week, and I was just like, oh, it's just so in love with the game. I'm going to spare the audience just because I pretty much waxed poetic for like 20 minutes straight last week. But I loved the game, thought it was phenomenal. And I'm ready for whatever they're doing next. Like, I'm very excited to see how they have evolved and if this is just a one-off or not. But they kind of talked about that in the interview. They were saying, like, yeah, a lot of people didn't have faith in us, and it was really tough on the team to kind of like fight against that with the kind of wave of negativity headed our way. I was like, look, at first, you got to be honest, like, when we all saw that, it wasn't looking that hot. It wasn't just negativity, man. It was like, see, this is what we mean about y'all. So I'm rooting for them. I'm definitely interested in what they're doing next. But I thought that this was a big surprise. And Cog, you weren't on actually when we talked about it last week with the partner preview, but that was when Bloober Team revealed their next game in Chronos: The New Dawn. Did you have a chance to see that trailer?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
Cool. I look cool. I liked it. I like what I saw.
Dead Space vibes, right?
Absolutely. I was like, how is Maddie not feeling about this being like Dead Space energy? Like, that's what first thing I thought about.
Dude, I can totally get down with them being because like Silent Hill 2 even has some jank to it, but I can get down with them just being like a janky kind of middle, as in like AA, AAA sort of survival horror developer, and just gradually growing and evolving. Like, I'm totally for that, man, because it's just right now it's just like been a slugfest with Capcom and just delivering things like Resident Evil, and then otherwise like you have these other remakes popping in here and there. That like you'll have Alone in the Dark, which didn't do that well. You'll have Dead Space, which did well, but not well enough. Like, no one's really like standing toe to toe with them. So I hope Bloober Team can continue to rise up and deliver experiences like they did with Silent Hill 2. So I'm looking forward to their next game here. Was there anything else, just while it's on the mind? Was there anything else from the partner preview that caught your eye that you wanted to talk about? They did have new Like a Dragon trailer.
Yes, they went in. Yeah. They went in with that, man. Yeah, it's so goofy. So I gotta rock and see what's going on. No, it was decent. I mean, again, it wasn't nothing. When I hear partner previews, to be honest, like I don't get my expectations to be crazy. I just be like, all right, let's see what's going to happen. So I kind of knew coming in is going to be a couple things here and there, but I'm not, going really crazy about it. It wasn't nothing like super ridiculous for me, but I did like to see what Bloober was showing, and then also, with them in reference to them being self-aware, I like that they took the criticism well, because we was there from the Medium days, remember? So I like to see them do that. I will say there is a part of me that I want to see now that new joint, because let's be honest, their whole studio has been inspired by Silent Hill. Silent Hill's like their favorite game. Every time they wax poetic. So we know you were kind of built and nurtured for that, right? Now it's time to step out with this information and this feedback that you got from this great addition that you made. And now let's see you shine now. And hopefully this is now going to get them on the way to be a dope horror studio. So I'm pulling for them, man. At the end of the day, like, I really want them to shine. I like the energy.
Yeah. Well, step one is they're 2 games in a row gameplay. Dude, sign me up, man. Like, I saw a gun. I was like, okay, cool. So they got it. Cool. That was like the biggest complaint I had. It was like their games atmospherically and even musically, like they had Akira Yamaoka do the soundtrack for the Medium. And I'm like, yeah, it works, but like nothing to play, man. Like, that's the problem. We need something to play. So Chronos New Dawn looks like it has gameplay. So fingers crossed that they keep that aspect up in their games, because that'll be a big difference maker for them for sure. All right, Cog. An update on IO's Project 007 is here from their boss, Hakan Abrak, who says this, quote, "It's completely beginning and becoming a story, hopefully a big trilogy out there in the future. And equally important and exciting, it's a new Bond. It's a Bond we built from the ground up for gamers. It's extremely exciting with all the tradition and history there together to work on this together with the family of creating a young Bond for gamers, a Bond that the gamers can call their own and grow with. I don't have an update today, but believe me, it's itching here as well to be talking about it soon. So we are following our plans. The production's going amazingly well, and we will soon be able to talk about it more. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up, end quote. So it sounds like we're getting very close to an official reveal beyond the title card. Maybe like a CG trailer or something just showing what this new Bond looks like. Obviously getting a better feel for the young Bond. But they're already talking trilogy, dude. What's our feeling about that? Kind of cart before the horse energy for me. Like, I'm always big on trilogy plans internally. Like, think trilogy, make one game though. Because if you don't make one good game, you can't even get to your sequel, brother. But what do you make of what Hakan had to say here for Project 007, a new young Bond built for gamers and a trilogy?
Yeah, I like IO. I like them. I mean, Hitman, man. And one thing about Hitman too, we don't give it enough credit graphically. Like, I feel like when they come outside, at least I remember when the Series X and S, the upgrades, and when you played a lot of Hitman 3 and stuff, like these games be looking beautiful. They really look good environmentally and stuff like that. So to me, they're the perfect studio, the perfect fit for a Bond game. Now, it's curious going to be how much stealth they go with. Obviously Bond is an iconic character. We want to see what their take is going to be on it. And I do like the fact that it's not tied to anybody, so they could go creatively with their own new Bond and just, have that creative freedom with that aspect. So I love that. Yeah, it's just a matter of, when it's going to drop and when they're ready to show and kind of stuff. But I'm excited for this one. I feel like it should be what Hitman. I think the reason why they think it's so big is they like, all right, Hitman has been around. It's kind of like it's known, but it's kind of cult classic kind of energy. And not that it doesn't sell at all, but I feel like them with a big license IP, that's why they're shooting the shot. But I do agree with you. You could have that on the whiteboard that you want to do a trilogy, but like focus on the first joint and just, not that they're not, but just make that joint the best you can be and then hope to then, go on your vision. But I love you calling your shot. You try to speak it into existence energy. I just want you to nail that first one, and then you could go from there.
Yeah, because like planning trilogy is totally cool in the inception. Because I feel like what made, I always look at Mass Effect as, to me, like the perfect trilogy, right? Because they knew in game 1 where game 3 would go, right? Like the Reapers really weren't the main threat until game 3, but they were built up right away in game 1, and you gradually got there. That takes obviously like talent in the level of just like writing ability and just how they directed that story. But of course, you have to lay out at least like what's our penultimate threat in this universe, right? It's the Reapers. And so you have to build toward that. So I always look at that as like, to me, peak trilogy gaming. And I think that you have to lay that sort of stuff out early. So I just hope that it's not distracting them, because it's like, hey, man, we've done this Hitman for a while, but now we got the 007 cash coming our way, and we're going to do a big trilogy because of this, right? Like I hope that their eyes are on the money, which, not literally, by the way, their eyes are on the ball, I should say.
Cash out.
Yeah, I hope their eyes are on the ball, and I trust them. Man, they have done phenomenal work with the Hitman IP, so I expect nothing less here. I've just been internally, the thing with this series, I guess we'll say now, is I've been trying to gauge like how much Hitman will make its way into 007, yes, because that's the thing. They seem to be hesitant on sort of locking up, because they've mentioned like, oh, it's the action and the set pieces you expect from 007. I'm thinking of the 007 games I played when I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, that is a big part of it. But like the idea of kind of Hitman style missions where you got the gadgets and you can like shoot a laser and like cut a hole in some glass and like put on a disguise or something, like that Hitman energy, I hope it is very much like that part of the DNA still in this 007 game, because it's such a good fit, and they just expand upon it with like some bigger set pieces beyond it. But what are your expectations for this? Like, do you think it's going to be just more Hitman, or do you think it's going to be something bigger?
I think it's going to be something bigger, but you made a good point, because me and you love them for that Hitman. Me and you love them for, they are the essence of stealth, hide the body, big sandbox, play in this world, so many multiple paths, so many ways to do something, time sensitive, all types of dope mechanics, right? And we want that to continue. But I think there's a part of me that says they will have portions of it, but I do think it may be a little bit more action heavy, because it is Bond. Bond, he jumps out sometimes, you know what I mean? He's got the guns, he's got the gadgets, he's got the car. Like, I think they may get into their set piece bag. Because Bond is like I grew up on those. Like my mom's forced me to watch James Bond, you know what I'm saying? Goldfinger and all this other stuff. And I'm like, all right, this is the British superhero. Okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But no, I think it will have some Hitman DNA, but I don't think it will be core to the experience. I think it's going to be a part of it. But I think we got to brace ourselves for more action than Hitman, because then as a developer, you know how developers are. They don't want to be, we're doing the exact same thing. And, you know,
even if it's like the smart thing here, right? Like that's what I worry about. Developers never just say like, we're going to kind of do a similar thing here and just let it work. It's like always got to be, you know.
And then it's the license.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming, again, it's a new Bond. They have a lot of creative control, but you also got to answer to them people, whoever got them rights, right? And be like, hey, we feel Bond is this. And you got to respect it on some level. What's cool, though, is they're not beholden to a specific Bond and a look or whatever. They look like they could do whatever they want to do. So it's an interesting balance. We're going to see how it play out. But I'm pulling for them. I love IO. I love them. I think this is their shot to really do something on a blockbuster level and be special.
This is interesting. They say in 2021, Amazon acquired MGM, which includes the rights to the James Bond franchise for $8.45 billion. However, Eon Productions retains significant control over the franchise, including the right to approve everything from marketing to casting and distribution to ancillary projects. That means Amazon, as the owner of MGM, will have to share decision-making authority with Eon Productions regarding the James Bond franchise. So there is a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You going to do this certain thing for Bond.
Yeah. You can control listen. Amazon. I'm sorry, you don't got a chance in hell.
You go listen.
Yeah. All right, we got more updates on Ubisoft here. For starters, Ubisoft has cut the price of their Japan set Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition by $50 in lieu of the canceled season pass and scrapped early access plans for the game's being delayed because the game has been delayed into 2025. But perhaps more noteworthy is what Ubisoft has done with their Prince of Persia team here, Cog. And we're going to read a statement here from Ubisoft. This comes from senior producer Abdelak Elges. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Quote, I'm extremely proud of our team's work and passion at Ubisoft Montpellier to create a game that resonated with players and critics alike, and I'm confident in its long-term success. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is now at the end of its post-launch roadmap with 3 free content updates and 1 DLC that released in September. We are now focusing on making the game available to more players. It was recently launched on Steam and will be available on Mac by this winter. Most of the team members who worked on the Prince of Persia: Lost Crown have shifted to other projects that'll benefit from their expertise. We know players have a lot of love for this brand, and Ubisoft is excited to bring more Prince of Persia experiences in the future. This comes hot on the heels of the report that this team has been officially disbanded, meaning that there will be no sequel for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This was the Rayman team. And they obviously, if you can tell by that track record, have put out some pretty consistent bangers. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is probably one of the best things Ubisoft has made in a long while. It's a phenomenal Metroidvania game, very expansive in scope too, but just very high quality, decent story, I felt. But the combat as well is really good. Like the style and flair is really good. Like it's just a really, really good game. It's a lot of what you probably want from Ubisoft nowadays if you're tired of their sort of open world formula. But they have, unfortunately, disbanded the team that made that. And so according to Insider Gaming, they're working on projects now like Beyond Good and Evil 2, the next Ghost Recon game, and even a Rayman remake. So at least Rayman, well, that's good for them. Like that'd be a good project to throw them on. But there doesn't seem to be much hope for a Prince of Persia: Lost Crown sequel, which is a shame because it's one of the better Ubisoft games they've made. But this doesn't seem to affect any future plans for Prince of Persia when it comes to like the Sands of Time remake and things like that. But Cog, when it rains, it pours, man. Just every week, there's more stories about Ubisoft. So here we are once more. What are our thoughts on the Lost Crown team being disbanded? Not laid off, just disbanded and put onto other projects.
Yeah, it's saddening because we talk about the creative risks in the industry, and we talk about when companies do things that we really enjoy, and unfortunately, for stakeholders not seeing the profit that they want to see from it, and thus we won't get a sequel. And again, I highly advise people listen to the Sacred Signal Plus I did with Colin and Hogue, because we talked about that with Kunitagami, in a sense that we don't know what it sold, kind of thing. And then obviously, in that particular case, Xbox had to help fund just to get the game off the ground. That's part of it. Was a different type of a Game Pass deal. They actually helped with the creative of bosses, giving them actually almost like Wasteland 3 energy to help them get it out the door and stuff like that. So, in that case, at least they got a bag. They got more exposure than they did. In this case, with Lost Crown, like Prince of Persia is bro, it is an iconic series. I grew up with that series. I remember seeing that game for the first time. It blew my mind. I remember seeing animations at the time that was just, wow, this is a different level in gaming. Combat, platforming, super dope. And this captured the essence of it. So, it's a shame that there won't be a sequel. It's a shame that, this didn't sell, quote unquote, to expectation. I feel like games like this should still be able to exist along with the rest of their portfolio. So it's sad. It's sad for me, because what happens is we get into what I consider the redundant part of the game industry, when it's only these specific styles of games
I
that,
have a writing for you, actually,
oh,
which
let's
will
go.
set
Let's
you up, I
go.
think.
Let's
Mark
do it.
Vuokolo writes in, "Hey Dukes,
Yeah.
more bad news surrounds Ubisoft, with Ubisoft Montpellier reportedly being disbanded due to not meeting sales expectations. Is this a sign of the state of the industry or the state of Ubisoft? Is it the general consumers who aren't interested in 2D games? Are there too many games that even games that review well get lost in the shuffle? Or is it unrealistic expectations for an IP that hasn't been relevant for years, and consumers knowing that Ubisoft games will get heavily discounted not too long after release?" Please continue, God.
Yeah, it's a great question, Mark. That's where we're at right now in this games industry. The fact that they have data internally, either they have data internally that is unrealistic of what they expect these games to sell and make, right? Or is it a situation where it's just like, look, there's that difference between critical acclaim and reception versus commercial success. And hardcore gamers, we have to deal with that reality too. There are times that, like, bro, we love the hell out of that game.
Yeah.
And it didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
And people ain't support. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. So that's where we are. And where I was going with it, Mark, just like, bro, like, it just frustrated me, because when these games don't succeed, it justifies the cookie cutter assembly line stuff that we get a lot. Oh, let's make another, no disrespect, Souls, or hey, let's make another battle royale, or let's make another looter shooter. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where we get into these patterns, because companies don't want to take risk. The games industry is just so expensive. They don't want to take risks. And that's the sad part here. The last thing I'll say is just that I am happy, only positive about this, is that even though they are disbanded, they are not laid off. They will. That's what Ubisoft is claiming, that that most of them are just shifting to other internal projects. So hopefully that is true, and that everyone still is retained, because that I was expecting the whole squad to get laid off, to be honest with you. So that part, at least, and there's another Prince of Persia game coming, but it is still sad to me, because that game was creatively dope, and I felt deserved a better fate than what it got.
Yeah, I think the biggest point that hung with me with this one, like, I've been covering Ubisoft a lot these past few weeks, but it really is the reaction I saw online, which is like, what the hell? This is like one of the best reviewed games of the year. And unfortunately, part of what comes with the growth of this industry and the frequency of releases is there was a time when you saw a game that got the scores that this game got. It was like, this is going to sell well because a lot of people are going to go and check this out, because there just wasn't as much coming out. And this is like the new big thing. And so now it's like you'll have weeks where it's like 3 different games drop, all of them bangers, all of them 90 Metacritic, and like that's it. Like that, and you just have to make your choice there. In fact, there's sometimes like a problem in the industry where there's too much good shit coming out. Sometimes there's just a lot of shit, but there's oftentimes I feel it's a choice between like 2 great things, and you'll have a situation like this where this is at the top of the year. There were some games coming out in January, February. Of course, February was a loaded month with things like 7 Rebirth. So there was a lot going on, right? And this game, just even though it reviewed well, lost in the shuffle. Like, there's only so much you can do to fight against that tide, against that storm, right? Like, you can time out your review embargoes listing at a time where it's a dead news day. Like, you can do everything right. You can make a great game, swing as hard as you can, but I think what I'm seeing is a lot of the industry not properly processed that, like, just because it's good doesn't mean it's going to sell well. And we have to take an honest assessment of the situation here, which is like Prince of Persia is not going to be back in a meaningful way until the Sands of Time remake. And
Right.
this game was likely made with the idea, because remember, since Sands of Time remake had a release date years ago, right? And it was to be coming out before this game, where I'm sure this game would have been propelled a little higher if that remake had come out and kind of stoked the fires of interest in the brand again. But I don't think this was going to be a game that it was too much weight on its shoulders to be the game that in one fell swoop revived interest in Prince of Persia, especially because it was back to the classic Prince of Persia, which did not really make it popular. Prince of Persia did start as 2D, but it got its legs with 3D when Ubisoft really went in on it and created what would be the framework for Assassin's Creed. And that's also why I think it's not as relevant to people, because Assassin's Creed evolved what Prince of Persia was. So I don't want to be a dick about it, but I do think that there's not as much interest in Prince of Persia as people care to admit. And just because it reviewed well, and I reviewed it too and thought it was great, doesn't mean it's going to sell well, which I don't think everyone's expecting. But to answer your question, Mark, I think it's a little bit of a reflection of both. Like Ubisoft's obviously in a shitty spot, and they're looking to consolidate their efforts into things that are going to make them money as soon as possible. I'm sure they have the money technically to go do a sequel to this game, but it's probably better spent on getting shit out the door. Like, oh my God, after 16 years of development, we're actually going to release Beyond Good and Evil 2, the game that has now set a record for being the longest time in development for a video game ever. So they might actually want to just like get that out the door potentially. Yeah. But then is it a sign of the state of the industry? Yeah, like I just said earlier, I think just we're in a state right now where I even look at games that Silent Hill 2 sold 1 million copies. We look at Metaphor sold 1 million copies. You got to ask the question, like, would these have sold better if they released in less crowded times where it's just them and people have their money reserved for them? Like, yeah, we sold 1 million, but could we have sold 2 million if we didn't release next to like 40 games in October? Because there are people who are like, this is their only hobby. And this is where they spend most of their money. This is an enthusiast hobby. This is a luxury hobby. And, people are always buying these games, but it's costly and games are getting more expensive where people are more picky. So I do think it's a reflection of like, the business decisions are still catching up a little bit. And I do see a time where games are just going to get delayed out of windows, where even it's like, will we rather just eat the cost up front here and risk maybe selling more copies later at a less busy time? I think you're going to see that more. I think Avowed was one of the first to really do that. Sure. And I think they're going to do it again.
Like a dragon. And make a little skedaddle from a certain somebody that we're going to talk about. Yeah, you make a fantastic point about game saturation and release dates. I mean, I couldn't have said it but any better. It's a huge factor. Huge factor. Yeah.
So we will see, but obviously looking forward to seeing whatever that team ends up getting their hands on next, because the game was great, and for those who are interested, you should check it out. It's really good.
Absolutely.
All right, last bit of news, Cog. We'll get into what we're playing here. Monster Hunter Wilds has an open beta announced for October 31st. PlayStation Plus subscribers will get this 3 days early. Neo JD has the write-in, Double Dookies. Monster Hunter Wilds open beta test has been announced for the end of the month. Are you guys looking forward to this? Thanks, and have it's Otani's world. We're just living in it kind of day. Must you remind us, Neo? Must you remind us?
Oh, man.
That dude's swing is so clean. I'm so mad the Mets didn't get him. I know they kind of went for him, but
yeah, I know. Listen, Dodgers, man, they always getting everybody. They like the other Yankees, the West Coast Yankees.
Yeah,
they get everybody. But yeah, man, salute to him. I try with Monster Hunter. Look, I get it. I get the appeal. It's just not for me. I've come to that determination. Like, I get it. You're out there on your beast and you're farming, you're hunting, and I understand the loop. Whatever that last one was that I played,
Rise,
I believe so. Yeah,
it was on Switch exclusively at first, and then
and I remember then it came over, and then because shout out to Ebontis, my co-host for Last Word, he is a huge bug. He listened to Duke. He's like, "You're playing? So how you like it?" Like he was ready to get me. He was like, I was like, "Look, I get it. It is fun. It's just that style of game long term. I just can't stick with." But I do get it, and I understand. Like, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. I know they got the open beta going on. I'm probably not going to partake because other games have my soul right now. And in February, it's definitely not getting copped. I'm sorry. It's too many games in February that I have a higher interest level than Monster Hunter. I love you, Monster Hunter boys.
I don't know why. That just makes me so. It's just so funny. Like you just made up. You're like, it's not getting caught. Like it's personal.
Not.
Like this. No, I'm not touching this thing.
It's just, you know how it is when your heart comes. That was like me telling you, yo, a new Tales game coming around. You know, some other release. Like damn well what's going to happen. Yeah, we're right. We all had those games that as soon as we see it that month, everything else do not exist. And unfortunately for Monster Hunter, all the stuff I like is in that month. And you found and like a dragon, and there's another game. It's another February game that we forgetting about that dropped in there. Oh, Kingdom Come, I don't know if Deliverance, and then Assassin's Creed. Bro, you're not getting played. Sorry.
Isn't that not to the point we just made earlier? Like, how is everyone buying these games? Like, I don't know, man. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be.
No,
totally
you're right.
Wrong,
this is where I agree with you, and this is where I agree with Colin. Colin's been saying, man, there's too many games. It's too many games. It's to the point where it's like, bro, you have to make business decisions. One, you do not have enough time. Bro, we're going to talk about what I'm playing. The game I'm playing is about 120 something hours. I'm like 40 hours in, barely making a dent. We're going to get into that. These games want your soul. There is so many of them. And then let's be honest, we are of the fortunate variety that we are content creators, that sometimes we get review code. Think about the average Joe person that got to make a decision. Like,
and these games are huge, right? Like all those games you mentioned, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Assassin's Creed Shadow, Monster Hunter Wilds, like Avowed. These are all big ass games. Yeah, they will take over that month at least.
Yeah,
like that's it. You have enough games for the year in 1 month.
Facts.
That just can't be sustainable, I don't think.
I agree, and I think the games industry is learning the lesson. You know what I'm saying?
Spread it out. Just spread it out, man.
Spread it out, and then you're seeing the failures, right? And now teams get disbanded. And that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it is a form of course correction in a way. It's just way too many. So, yeah, that's just where it is. But again, for the Monster Hunter crew, it's going to do well. I will say this, even though I'm not getting, this is the juggernaut.
Yeah.
This is the one everybody better stay the hell away from, because when Big Monster Hunter outside, I will give him that. Mm-hmm. You better move.
I think the games you stay away from are Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I truly think that game's going to be massive. I think it's going to pick up a lot of steam at the start of the year, because that's what happened with the first one. The first one was like just a snowball. And I think people are going to look at this and I think that's why if you're Avowed right now, especially with like that 30 FPS thing, like don't stand toe to toe with another fantasy game, because you will expose yourself if you are not doing what they are doing. That's just how it goes. Don't force people to make a choice, because you might get burned. And honestly, I guess you could say the same for KCD too when it comes to Avowed. But yeah, man, I think it's that game and Monster Hunter Wilds to avoid. Like those are the two that can stand in there, but otherwise, I think everything else clears out. I don't think Assassin's Creed Shadows can afford to be delayed again.
Yeah,
but,
it's just what it is.
You know, that one's kind of stuck, but I think all the others, man, move.
Like a dragon already blinked.
Yeah,
they already moved.
Yeah, they moved up.
Up. He's like, yo, get us first.
It was kind of wild, disrespectful, because the way they phrased it is they were like moving up in front of Monster Hunter Wilds, and you and I were both like, oh, they're challenging Assassin's Creed. It's so interesting, like how the perspective's different depending on who you ask.
Yep.
But yeah, when it comes to Monster Hunter Wilds and its open beta, I personally will also not be playing, because I am playing so much shit right now. So much as we'll get into right now. So let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
You and I share a game here. What is going on? I did not know you'd be playing this. I want to get your thoughts first, because I was so ready. I had my bars ready on like how weird and wild this one is. And I see you're playing. I'm like, what? Okay, so get into it, man.
Yeah, the Ninja Turtles Unleashed. Mutants Unleashed. I just started, so you're probably farther than me, or probably finished it. Knowing me, there's another game that is taking over time, but I had to play because it was coming into Comic-Con, and got a chance to interview Outright Games and get a feel of where they were going with it. So, you know, first off the bat, first of all, shout out to the developers for being completely transparent and honest. You know, one of the things that I did not know is that the game had like this scaling difficulty, and that based on how well you're doing or bad you're doing, because it does have a little high fire rush in it per segment on how you're doing, and then S or the rating and a B rating depending on how good you do in the combos and stuff. That was the first thing. I will say off the bat, I gotta be honest, I did not like. I remember when we first saw this guy, I was like, I do not like this art style. I was like, at first I was like, man, they going with this claymation joint, but then I learned, okay, this is based on the Paramount movie that is literally that, and this is a sequel to that. So
Mhm.
once I got that, okay, get it out your head, Cog. This is something that exists, and they're adding on to it. Then the second thing was, besides that part, my main issue is the camera angle.
Yeah, it can be
The
tough at times. Yeah.
Oh, that the camera angle. I'm like, because 1 minute it's side to side, next minute it's foreground and background, right? And don't get me wrong, it looked cool. It grew on me on the look and what you're doing, but there were times I was like, where am I supposed to go? Like there were a couple times I got stuck. I was like, I didn't know where I was supposed to be going and kind of stuff. So you got that. So at first I'm like, all right, I'm expecting simple beat 'em up. Yeah, all right. Let me get Mikey. Let's get the stuff. And I'm playing. I'm like, okay, we got a little skill tree. All right, you got more things you could do. Okay. Then you got relationships and personas type. Like, what are we doing here, Ninja Turtle? Like, are you trying to be deep as I get? Because to be honest, I was like, all right, it's gonna be something I play for a little bit and I'm gonna drop, right? Because I didn't think it's gonna keep. But I was like, yeah, all right. It's goofy. It's a younger version of Turtles. It's not my Turtles. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, this is for the new generation of kids that are playing this. This is not like Bebop and Rocksteady are your friends. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I'm confused. I'm like,
it's so funny. I feel like I'm listening to myself right now. I had the same reaction. I was like, yo, why are they friends? I got to see the movie now. I talked about it on Retro Rebound, and all of the comments are like, yo, Maddie, you're wrong. You got to watch this movie. They're saying they're like, yo, what this did for Spider-Man with Spider-Verse, like, this is what this movie did that for TMNT. I'm like, okay, like it's one thing. Like, I don't think I was spouting nonsense, but it's one thing. Like, if I was like on an offhand comment, kind of just saying like, I hate how these turtles look. People were like, bro, you got to get in there. You got to see it. Like, and a lot of people were in our boat. They're like, I grew up a 90s fan and 2003 fan. And I love the IDW Mirage comics. And like, dude, this is really good. So I don't know, man. Did the game get you interested in the movie? Because it kind of did for me.
It did.
Because when the turtles were out in broad daylight, I was like,
yes.
Oh, hold up. Why did no one think of this? This is a great idea.
It's a good idea. And then they flipped it on this, like, the mutants. Like, these are the new mutants, and like there's mutant it's mutant discrimination. It's just a different take that's kind of modernized. That once I got over my old fogey set in my ways mode, I started to like it the more I played it. And I was like, all right, I'm coming around on you guys. So to your point, yes, I have to watch this film now. I have to see what's going on. And again, shout out to Outright. I have a tremendous interview with the developer. And shout out to Rudy, the game's producer. And yeah, they really broke it down, the inspiration. They did say, I actually called it out. They were like, you called out Hi-Fi. That was an inspiration for us. Persona was an inspiration for us. And yeah, it's on the interview is up right now on the Lords of Game plug, Lords of Gaming on Network YouTube channel. And I really felt where they were going with it. So yeah, that was my thing. I think it's also on Switch as well. They were talking, as far as all the platforms and stuff, and they talk about the difference there. But I'm curious your take on it, because I didn't get far, probably by maybe three or four stages in or whatever it is. But I was having fun with it. I have to admit, I was having fun. I really came in ready to bash this game. Yeah. Or I came in ready to say, this ain't for me. I don't know what they doing. And I was like, no, it's kind of... My other nitpick, though, like, as it gets later, you tell me, because I don't know how far you are, do I get more different enemy types? That's my quick, because I felt my enemy types were getting a little redundant at one point. So I want to know if we got any more cooler enemies and stuff like that. If you encountered.
There are a couple. Okay. Yeah, there's like flying enemy types. And I mean, it's still pretty simple beat 'em up, but like there are a few that kind of change up how you would approach things. But yeah, I was like weirdly kind of into this game when I was playing it. I kind of stepped in the same way. I was just, because we read the press release on the show and I was just looking it over. I was saying, they were talking about building relationships, open world zones, and like a day-night cycle. I'm like, what? Like, this doesn't sound like any other TMNT game. And this has already been a good year with Splintered Fate. Like, I think that's the best TMNT game I've played.
Bro, I want that game so bad. The minute you tell me that's coming out to
I think it's coming to Steam
or Xbox, please let me know. That game is, when you sold me on that Turtles.
Hold on. I think it got a release date on PC. It's on Steam here. It's still Q4.
Still Q4?
Oh, no, okay. November 6th.
Ooh.
Yeah, y'all, listen, real quick. Just sales page real quick on this.
Yeah, you got to go get that.
Splintered Fate is Hades but TMNT with an amazing story. It's got like Yuri Lowenthal as fucking Michelangelo, like incredible voice cast. I think Nolan North is Raphael. Like they went all in on this game. It's addicting. It's good. The gameplay is incredible. Just like everything I didn't know I wanted from a Ninja Turtle game is here. It is so fun to play. So yeah, November 6th on Steam. It's already out on Switch. I know a lot of fellow Dukes and LSM patrons have picked it up, tagged me about it, saying how good it is. Please keep an eye on this one. Amazing game. Also has co-op. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And there is a demo actually. I'm looking right now on Steam if you want to try it out.
Oh, there's a demo.
Yeah.
Oh, Rogue Ally. Let's go. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So this comes out in 13 days, November 6th. But when it comes to Mutant Unleashed, dude, a lot of your opening experience is like my exact thing. I went in like, I fucking hate how this looks. I fucking hate you. I hate this game. Fuck this. Like, I just a lot of fuck you energy going in, right? Then I just see them transition, right? I see day, night, and I'm like, hold up. Like, my brain just clicked a gear. And then it transitions in. Leonardo's like in a little plaid shirt and pants. He's got one hand in his pocket. I'm like, does this dude think he's Joker? I was like, what the fuck? I was like, are you serious? I love this all of a sudden. Like, this is so, because the thing is, man, this is why I love video games. I love that they were so unapologetically wearing the inspiration on their sleeve. Like, yeah, one hand in the pocket. You know what game we were looking at. Like, I love that energy, right? Like, so clear as day, taking a page out of the Persona playbook. And that was exciting because then you created a good balance in the gameplay. Because, like, then I started to appreciate the beat 'em up combat more because as I was getting into these relationships with these characters, I was like, oh man, I'm getting new moves and new combos and new attacks. And
fire.
I'm just like, wait, this is actually really good.
Bro, you seen the Michelangelo joint with the...
I refuse to play as Michelangelo, bro. I can't stand the voice actor. No.
Oh, okay, I got you, Fando.
No. That's not even like creepy cog at the park. Nope. That's just like this guy. No, I'm sorry.
You can't do it.
There's a reason Cog was invited for the interview and not me. I'm kidding. But dude, I heard his voice actor. I sent my friend a video. I was like, you got to hear this, man. I was just like,
you can't do it.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. But I played as Leonardo. Okay. He was the one. I got to see the movie and see if I develop like a love for these turtles. Cause right now I'm like very harsh on them. Very harsh on them. But yeah, the beat 'em up combat I started to appreciate more because I was getting upgrades from hanging out with these characters in the world. And I viewed it as like baby's first Persona is what I titled it. It was like, oh, okay, like this is for a younger audience. And what's very cool about this game is that a younger audience is going to see this and then maybe they'll go and play like Hi-Fi Rush or Persona and they'll be like, oh, it's like that game I played as a kid. And honestly, with all of the junk that kids get fed with the games that come out nowadays, this is like one of the best kids games to have come out. And I think it's just very important to highlight that. Like, I'll sit here and joke and jab all the time, but it's a very important video game, I think, in that it is very much for a younger audience. I think I think Turtle fans will enjoy it too, but it is very much for a younger audience. And the fact that it's not just like shameless cash grab or, pretty much what Game Mill has been handing everyone with the TMNT license for a while. Like they did an arcade re-release of Wrath of the Mutants and it's fucking awful, dude. It's exactly what I expected from this license. So for them to go from that to these two games in this year between Splintered Fate and Mutants Unleashed, I feel really good about where games are headed. Like it's kind of giving me confidence on what they might be doing with Last Ronin. But Mutants Unleashed, like it's a plethora of really good ideas. None of them executed perfectly. Like the stories that you go on these like bonding events aren't super deep, but like the music is kind of fire. The portraits, the presentation, the camera work. It's like they literally studied the textbook of Persona and just copied what they did. And it has a really good feel to it because of that. It's so surprisingly solid. And so I'm excited to see what they do to build upon it. Like that's how I walked away from it. Like I'm not done with it, but I'm working on another review right now. I'm putting a lot of hours into a game. So I had shelved this one as well. And so I'm just like, man, like I'm very excited to see if they get another crack at it. Can they make these like, because you can like skateboard, for example.
Yeah.
And that's cool and all, but like there's no real reason right now for me to skateboard because these hub zones are like so small. So I'm curious to see like how they'll break that open. Will they tell deeper stories in like another Mutants Unleashed game with because like some of them do try to be deep, but the conversations aren't long enough to let it breathe. Like there was one, did you do Raphael's, like his opening one where, like he saw the guy with the amputated leg and they're kind of talking about like how confronting these sorts of things out in the open makes them feel better rather than pretending they don't see it all. Like Raph's like, see me as a mutant. They don't kind of address that, and it's really weird. And so I thought that was interesting, right? Like that they are going for that level of storytelling. But given that I just played Splintered Fate earlier, which has like bursts of storytelling that's like very well written and very focused, I
Gotcha.
feel like there is a level that they have yet
Yeah.
to reach. But it felt like what happened here at Mutants Unleashed is they just didn't have a lot of time, not like development time, but the actual cutscenes weren't long enough.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's good though. I will
Yeah.
say, I mean, I didn't have low expectations, but much better than I thought it'd be.
No, I came in with low. I came in like this is going to be the worst. I did. I have to admit, because I remember when we first saw it, I was like, "Ooh, that art style, I don't know." But to your point, it grew on me, and then like I was like, "Yo, this is really a kids game, and it's well done to introduce Turtles to a whole new generation of fans." And they still had, like you said, like my first persona, like certain types of energy to it that I'm like, but still with enough depth for a hardcore guy to be like, all right.
Yeah.
And Attic was watching me play because he was with me because he was visiting New York. And at first he saw my old school hate. And then he came in like, yeah, this might be, you know,
we got to be nice during that interview.
Yeah, so we had to be real about this when we talked to him. But as I kept playing, I couldn't stop playing. And he's watching me like, I ain't gonna front. This is kind of like he's warming up as I'm warming up watching him play. And I was like, yo, let's test the co-op. Let's do some stuff. Yeah. And it was fun, man. I had to admit, it was fun.
It was like a fun balance because like, for those who play Persona, you know how they'll say like, you had 8 days left until you have to do this palace. They even got that in this game. They're like, you had 8 days left until you have to hit this mission. So go hang out with your friends in the meantime. I'm like, holy fuck, man. Like, I'm very impressed. But the UI work is also really good in the game. That's obviously very Persona coded, but they did a really great job. Like there's some flaws. The digi mutant system, that doesn't really work at all. Like it like just clicking around the screen, hoping you'll like magically find this digital mutant just doesn't. I liked it, but again, it's a game about like a lot of good ideas and some pretty solid execution, and hopefully they can kind of build upon this because I think it's a really good framework. So
I agree. We'll
see.
Yeah, we shared that one, and then Metaphor. What more can I say? Yeah. Probably about at least 30 to 40 hours in. I am blazing, and I took like a day or two off of it. When I started, it's like long sessions. I set aside like a little 5-6 hours. It'd be some time I'll be in there, man. But look, you know, this is when I knew this game won me over. This was the moment. So remember me and you talked, and at the last time we talked, you know, I thought the game was, you know, a 3-character game, right? So I'm like, all right. Addict kind of alluded to me that there was a 4th character because he's ahead of me. And I said, all right, let me just see how the character looks. Manny showed me this character. And I was like, oh no, I was doing so well, and y'all gonna have this. Like it looked like something out of some Pikachu. I was like, no, what are we doing? Metaphor, you had it. This is mature. It's supposed to be for me. Don't be putting this energy out there, right? So I'm dreading now when it's my turn to get said character. And I remember when I was playing Alex, like, yo, you get close. You do that dungeon, you're gonna be right there. All right, cool. So I do the dungeon, whatever. The story for this character, the way this character is introduced without spoiling, is a really dope, tragic tale. And I'm like, okay. Then you got to fight said character. This character is not playing no games with you at all. Like it is one of the hardest confrontations. Let's just say that. I'm not gonna spoil why. It was so. I was like, I'm like, bro, you beat this? Because it was getting on my nerves, and I was like, yo, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing here. And if you don't learn this mechanic to fight said character, you're going to be washed easily. And he be talking that talk. And he letting you know, the game lets you know he's holding back on you. It's something about he like you, so he don't want to go all out on you. And I'm like, hey, yo, so finally beat this character. You know, and then characters that immediately get down with you, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. First off, I don't know what accent this is. This is the dopest voice for a character that looked like that I've ever seen in the game. He is on some Royal Liege Shadow Guard. I was an X thing. He's got his own discrimination thing going on, things that they did to him. The character's written well. Mature, dope. This character ends up being my favorite character. Like, it came to the point where I was like, you know, when you get a character that you don't like, you're like, as soon as I get somebody else, I'm kicking you. I'm just keeping you here because you're number 4. I was like, yo, Heismay, my man, I'm never getting rid of you. Like, he is the most dopest, noble. Then when they sold me, they said, oh, Kyle, you don't like QT? We're going to put this little ninja thing on him a little bit with a little katana and his fighting style. He in a battle, he be talking that talk. And his name and his race is, I hate to spoil, he's called a Ujif. And he'd be like, you dare? Like, he talks to the enemies. You dare go against the wits of the Ujif? Like, he is the bro. I'm telling you, I was like, this game is true. This game got me liking QT Cog stuff that I'm not supposed to like, and they doing it in a dope way. Fire. So I got him. I'm crazy far down with him. And now the new addiction that I have is the archetypes. Because now, like, I'm in this mini game of, okay, you got, certain archetypes. You got, the knight, you got the seeker, you got the mate. But then there's like the advanced level version of it, right? And then there's certain prerequisites, whatever. But what I like that Metaphor is doing is, see, this is where my playstyle versus Addict's playstyle punished Addict, and I loved it. Because Addict is point to point, beeline to beeline, do most of the major stuff. Oh, no. This game rewards you if you put your virtues up a certain thing, because certain characters be like, yo, I'm not even talking to you unless your eloquence is up or your time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even helping you. And then that'll lead to a quest line that does unlock some real powerful archetype with some powerful skill. So I'm playing. Addict's looking at me screen like, how did you get that? I said, you been blazing. You wasn't talking. And he's like, yo, you got stuff I've never seen before. I'm like, yeah. So it rewards the guy who really wants to, because obviously their stuff is limited. You got a day and night cycle. But man, I am farther. I'm like probably in the third, I don't want to call location. And some stuff is going down. It's getting grimy. It's getting dirty. We doing some infiltration. I just love this cast of characters, man. Like this, if they end the game terribly, then now maybe I'll revisit. But it's very hard for me to not say this feels like Game of the Year. It's and I know I'm premature. I'm probably 1/3. I'm 40 hours. And it was a 100-hour game. I cannot stop playing.
Astro Para King beat it in 50 hours. I was like, are you sure you got the right ending? He was saying he did. I was like, bro, how did you do that? I was very impressed.
I mean, you could blaze. I've taken a couple days here and there because I got things I got to do. So I can't play every day 6 to 8 hours. You know what I'm saying? But when I do, they're long sessions. But the thing is, I'm really playing in a different style where I'm not a completionist style, but I'm really min-maxing, and
what's your time, dope hitting everything.
Yeah, like what's dope about it is, like, if you level up a specific archetype and then you get another one with that same character, you can then take 2 of the 3 favorite skills you like of a favorite archetype, like a mage or whatever, and put them on and make almost like a different version of this character. So it's of these new characters that you make. So it's a dope system when you can pick it. Now, each has a cost. They understand that some magical abilities, those are powerful. You're going to pay this currency that costs a lot to do that. And you can only bring like 1 or 2 over. You can't have every skill that you've ever acquired onto one new archetype. Yeah. So yeah, look, this game is fire. It's going to be how this story continues, how the story ends. But right now, it is very hard for me not to say this does not feel like my game of the year.
Awesome.
Period.
I cannot wait to get back to it, dude. I'm reviewing something right now.
I know I already know what you
do. Dude, I want to be, you have no idea how badly I want to be freed. This is like, I can't obviously talk about it, but I just want to be, I want to be a free man right now. It's so fucking bad. It's not.
I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel you. All I would say, bro, your boys are cooking.
Okay,
and
good.
By the way, I bought that soundtrack.
Yeah, of course.
That soundtrack.
Bro, you're gonna be lifting to that.
That joint, when that hit, And the orchestra, the chants, this music, this got good music in every location for no reason.
Yeah. Dude, this is your Atlas Awakening, and this is their experience through and through. What you just said. Music is fire everywhere. Yeah, like that's one of their staples, man. It's incredible. So I'm so happy to hear that you're enjoying it. Let it continue. Let it continue.
This is my persona. This is for me. The Atlas did this for me. You know what I'm saying? But what's the other joint you playing? What's the other joint?
I have been playing Sonic X Shadow Generations. Got to shout out our boy RK128 with the write-in. Blessed day, Chaos Control Dukes. Happy to see I'm not the only one writing in about Sonic. Sonic X Shadow Generations is an amazing experience. As of this time of writing, I am beating Shadow's campaign. What was your favorite moment or level, Maddie? And how do you feel about how they handled the story? And for Cog, will you humor Lord Sonic and play this a critically acclaimed adventure? Have a hell really did freeze over if IGN is giving a Sonic game a 9 out of 10, huh? Kind of day. So thank you, RK, as always, for the Sonic themed write-in.
Got a chance to work with him. He was with me in New York Comic Con.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a chance to work together. That's my man. Salute.
Dude, this game. Okay, so backstory, right? First and foremost. Sonic Generations, before I ever even liked Sonic games, this was the exception. This was the one game that I was like, I love Sonic Generations. I replayed Sonic Generations more times than any other Sonic game because I just think it is so fun, feels so good. They had this control set that they introduced in Sonic Unleashed, and I always define it as they turn it into a Need for Speed game. Like you could burn around corners, just controls really well, feels really good, lots of routes, and of course nostalgia with like old Sonic stages being brought. And at that time, I had no idea either, by the way. Like now it's a level of appreciation I can have, but Sonic Generations is built upon a lot of their best stages, and they were all really fun, and they introduced like new routes and secrets. And while the story isn't like fantastic, look, dude, just what a romp. So fun to play through, great challenge missions, good boss fights, like just all in all, to me, like the best modern Sonic game, really. And then I obviously went on and played other modern Sonic games, and none of them were very good. So for them to bring this back, I already knew I was going to like at least half of the game. But the secret sauce is you're taking my favorite character in Sonic as a universe in Shadow, and you are now giving him his own Generations game. Like, I don't want to call it a dream game, but like, what a crazy coincidence for someone like me who I just feel like this was tailor-made. Like, we're going to take your favorite Sonic game and we're going to add your favorite character and we're going to make him fucking dope, Cog. We are going to make this guy go through it all. Dude, it actually kind of is emotional. I mean, the writing in Sonic has gotten much better. It really started with Frontiers on a big level, but if people have been reading like the Sonic comics, which I've read a couple of volumes of them, they're really good, but I know it's been ongoing for a while, but Ian Flynn's been behind a lot of those. And what he's kind of doing, Cog, is call him the grand Sonic unifier, right? Like our man Ian Flynn has pretty much been taking all these old Sonic games that have their own different adventures. No one really knows how connected they are. And he's just pulling references and whatnot from these past games into current stories and creating a Sonic universe that feels cohesive. And it's really helping with getting people invested in the story because they're like, yeah, these past adventures matter a lot more now. And the way he's doing it is just so natural. And it's not big scale stuff. You know, the like Sonic Frontiers isn't about what happened in adventure and connecting in that way, but there's references when characters are talking. It builds history with them. And so the dialogue is much better. And there's more of that here in Shadow Generations. You know, when you play Sonic Generations, there's like a party for him, and Shadow's the only one missing. And now you know what he was going through during that whole stretch, and it's fucked up. Obviously, for those who don't know, Shadow's character in Adventure 2 is built around the idea of like kind of dealing with this trauma of losing Maria Robotnik and just being this ultimate life form experiment and fighting against this darkness. And the cutscenes in this game are sick. The voice acting is great. It's not Keanu, so it's even better. Just had to get that in there. Just had to get that in there.
Do the jam.
But no, it really is like, I'm not going to sell it like anyone is getting a Game of the Year story here, but if you're a Sonic fan, like you're going to be thrilled with what they did here. Like it's really, really good stuff on display. It's not just cool fan service, but like heartfelt storytelling that is gonna, I think, for people who enjoyed Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, where I think Sonic stories were respectable, you know, and you remember those moments. Like Sonic Adventure 2 made me feel something, which I never really expected that out of a Sonic game. Are you fucking kidding me? But these games that they're doing now, Sega, with Frontiers, like the ending shot, I'll just say, of Dr. Robotnik and the song that plays, like that made me feel something, dude. Like I'll always remember that. That was a really heartfelt moment. That game, it's flawed, but it has a lot of heart. And Shadow Generations feels like it's not compensating for its jank with heart. Like it has heart and it has a lot of good stuff going for it. So yeah, story I really liked. As for like moments, I don't want to call too many specifics RK only because this is a little short. It's like 4 or 5 hours long. You know, it's about the same length, if you will, of Sonic Generations, but
Okay.
you know, in the scheme of like there's a number of boss fights. I don't want to ruin those. Like I'll just say that the stages in particular, like Kingdom Valley feels, I mean, that's a Sonic 06 stage. And if you played Sonic P06, which is a Unity remake by one guy of Sonic 06 stages, you already know what it's like feeling good. But getting into that with the Sonic Generations gameplay, oh my God, dude, what an amazing feeling stage. Like the momentum and the paths they add. It's so good. But I really think it's Shadow's animations and his fighting style, because in Sonic Generations, like he'll get a kit and he'll be able to do things like light dash and he'll be able to hit a bunch of rings, but Shadow get like Doom Wings, Doom Surf, and these are great abilities because then you'll go to this hub world, kind of like a Sonic Frontiers Island almost. And as you complete and restore more stages, you'll have this hub world expand and get bigger. And you'll be able to like now swim around and go do other like collect machine parts. And there's like some secret hidden behind those, or access chests to unlock other things. There's like tons of unlockables hidden everywhere. And it's kind of Metroidvania. It's like, no, now I have the Doom Wing, so I can reach that up there. Or now I have Doom Surf, so I can surf here and reach that over there. And it's just really well designed. You can see the lessons learned from things like Frontiers bleeding into this. And the other thing I really like is when you're on these stages, you're going to see sort of transitions that happen where like it goes from stage to cutscene and then stage again. And it kind of it elevates the overall presentation and how cinematic these levels can be without taking away complete control. Because a lot of times when they want levels to be cinematic in Sonic, they have you hit a bunch of boost pads, a bunch of jump pads. They put you kind of on a rail and just change the camera angle. But this will kind of turn into a cutscene where like shadows start like fighting things off and then like fall down 2 stories. And then the camera will transition and you'll be back into the level. It's epic, dude. Like that is the best improvement, is like the way they transition from like these epic cutscenes into gameplay again and again. They added new challenge acts. So when you want to get a boss key, you'll do these challenge stages, and like all of them are diverse challenges. Like, oh, you'll have 1 ring. And so it turns into like almost like Super Mario. Like all you have is 1 life. And like you're going to go, and it's like a 3D platformer. It's not even about boosting and dash pads and all that stuff. It's just about like jumping around. There are ones where you'll have to, I'm trying to think of some, collect X amount of rings, defeat X amount of enemies as you're going through the stages, and they'll all be laid out differently. Like it's really good, because the biggest problem I had with Sonic Generations is there just wasn't enough content. Like you just finish it and you're like, man, I want so much more. This answers that. Now you have like double the content, and it makes it like the definitive Sonic Generations package, which I was really hoping for, because, you know, they've done these remaster kind of re-release efforts before and they've not gone super well. They had like Sonic Colors on Switch, I think it was, which was terrible. These re-releases have not been great for Sonic in the past. So for this one to be not only nailed, but like the additive content is so good for the rest of the game, it just brings it onto a whole new level. Like, yeah, IGN gave the original game an 8.5. This definitely deserved a 9 if the 8.5 was there. So I don't do number scores, of course, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't surprise me that they would give it such a high score. It deserves it. It really is, like, I think the best Sonic game. Like, if you're not a Sonic fan, like I was, you'll love it. If you're a Sonic fan, of course you're going to fucking love this. The storytelling's much better. And you have the stages that are all from the best Sonic games, from Adventure to Heroes. Like it really is like a perfect Sonic game in a lot of ways. So just awesome game, dude. Awesome. I'm just done with the Shadow story. I'm going to go finish Sonic's story. I'm just really having an absolute blast with it. And can't say enough good things about it. They've really knocked it out of the park.
That's dope. That's good to hear. That's dope.
All right, Cog. Well, let's talk about that Call of Duty marketing here, and then we will move on to our news for the week. Crisp Eclair writes in, hey, Dukes, with Black Ops 6 on the way this week, I've seen multiple Call of Duty verified sources of their accounts advertising this game as recommended on Game Pass. Both their Twitter and Instagram verified accounts did this, as well as other random ads I've seen throughout personalized ads on the platform. Why would they decide this marketing push so late? Also, this all but confirms that there was no deal struck or contract signed, that they couldn't do this the whole time. Thoughts? Cog, any thoughts on this, sir?
Yes, absolutely. Shout out to Crisp Eclair. Yes, I will say I was very surprised to finally, on the Call of Duty Twitter account, I saw them retweet and interact with the Xbox account and promote that the game was on Game Pass. Huge deal. Huge. I will not minimize that. That is something I have been pointing out. You know, that type of marketing is huge. Now, to Crispy Claire's point, as far as why so late, again, I don't know if was some deal in place or some timing in place. However, I do have to fire back at people who still think that, you see, everything was fine. Now, Exhibit A. If you go to the Call of Duty YouTube chat, you know I'm ready. The Call of Duty YouTube channel, right? 7.95 million subscribers. 7.95, almost 8, right? And you look at the Xbox YouTube channel, 5.52, so almost 6 million, right? If you look at the Xbox YouTube channel, they've got a Call of Duty Black Ops advertising. They got a podcast. You see Game Pass, getting in there, all the videos, all the trailers. If you go to the Call of Duty, the bigger channel, the channel where most people are going to go for information on the game, you'll see look at the last 5 videos. You see the Replacer Dude, National Kick-Ass and Call of Duty Day, Replacer July, all these 5 hours ago, 2 days ago, 3 days, 4 days, none of them at the end of the trailer say play it in Game Pass also. Not one. So again, it is a bit strange to me that the biggest source of information to go get Call of Duty information does not promote that. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's still a little weird, right? Now, I don't know if it's a situation where it's a specific time frame where they can do it. Was there part of concessions when Sony had the rights to it before Microsoft acquired Activision, ABK, that there's still some contractual language? But we have to admit, on the Call of Duty channel, the YouTube, there is nothing that says it could be played in Game Pass, nor does it have any platform for that matter, which is quite interesting to me. So that's just something to pay attention to. And, I said this kind of last week, where I just kind of feel like I'm not really coming at Xbox in a sense. I just feel like there's still something that we don't know.
Yeah.
There's still something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the vibe, right? Is that there's something still ongoing because again, you just, this is the thing you shout from the rooftops. You got to, and we not really getting that vibe.
Yeah. Not to interrupt you, but we do know, we know how important Call of Duty in Game Pass is for Xbox, right? This is make or break. They did this deal for the FTC. It is critical for them. So to me, I have to assume that this is something that they would want to do, right?
Yeah.
Right. But there's something kind of still preventing the full-on blitz that we're used to. And that's the thing we have to admit. So I know everyone wants to say, see, Cog, I told you. But I got some evidence that still says not so fast. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for numbers at this point, right? Like this is at least the numbers that they typically share. We can get an idea of how this will affect Game Pass, right? Like there's enough data there to gauge something. So I'm just waiting for that. That's all I've been waiting for this whole dang time. Just
and look,
gotta know.
I want to be wrong. I want them to shout this from the rooftop. I want it to be. This is that critical. I want the average Joe to go, wait a minute, what's Game Pass? Oh, really? Okay. I want to turn on Monday Night Football and say, yo, get it in. That's what we're supposed to be seeing. And these are the people have to understand, respectfully, no one is going to Xbox social media channels and no one's going to Xbox YouTube. People do not, the majority of people do not care about Xbox. They're here for the game or their preferred platform.
Yeah.
And that's how you get that audience to now pay attention and say, oh, what's Game Pass? Let me see what that is.
Agreed. So, hey man, like I just feel it you got to wonder if it's a situation where like, well, Xbox wants it this way, right? Like they want everyone to consume it on Game Pass because it's kind of the potentially, not certainly, but potentially the survival of the service itself hinges on a lot of that success, or at least it'll face massive changes otherwise, potentially. But Activision, that's not in their best interest, right? Could it be? I mean, they're owned by Xbox now, but is this what they want with the way they've conducted business? And Bobby Kotick going on the stand and kind of saying why he wouldn't want games day one on Game Pass. So you have to, obviously Kotick's not a part of the picture, but that's kind of what it's starting to look like, the division of needs. Xbox needs this, does Activision though.
That's a good point. And there's a part that's like, hey, maybe it's still good for business that we don't, we want to get the physical set, you know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to, the Game Pass subscription. So it's an interesting, thing to watch.
100%. Let's get into the main news of the show, Cog. This first one here, I picked out as our number one because I felt like you and I would both have a lot of thoughts on it. We're talking about Xbox, PlayStation, and Crimson Desert. Now, for those who haven't seen Crimson Desert, this game looks amazing. Like there's like 80 different games I can think of that it feels inspired by. But definitely just go check out the extensive gameplay they put out there. They put like over an hour of gameplay out, if I remember correctly. Like they've been very transparent about what they're showing. Really bold to do in today's market, but they're approaching things differently, and I really like what they're doing. Anyway, Korea-based financial reporter Naver had spoke with Crimson Desert's Pearl Abyss, the developer, and they had the following to share, quote, "We, Pearl Abyss, spent a lot of time considering our release strategy. Sony has essentially seen the entire game and expressed interest in publishing it, offering several favorable terms. If we had gone with Sony as a publisher, the game would have been exclusive to PlayStation for a year, with no release on Xbox, and PC distribution rights would belong to Sony as well. Despite these restrictions, Sony's marketing power and various unique incentives were appealing. However, after evaluating the expected sales and revenue sharing structure, we decided that self-publishing would be more beneficial. It's 99% certain that we will publish the game ourselves. Recently, Stellar Blade signed an exclusive deal with Sony, but that was mainly because they didn't have the necessary publishing team, unlike us." This is fucking crazy.
They out here snitching, man. Yeah. The other dudes.
Yeah. Like, they did this. They do not have what we have.
Nobody asked you about Stellar Blade, bro.
In a typical contract, 30% of the revenue goes to platform fees, and the remaining 70% is split between the developer and publisher. Since we already have the capability to self-publish globally and have overseas branches, we concluded that our own resources would be more advantageous, end quote. So, Cog, what are our thoughts on what Pearl Abyss shared here about PlayStation's approach? I think they had the finger on the pulse of the right game again, but what do we make of what they had to say here?
This is funny on many levels. One, because yes, I feel we do get to be justified a little bit in a sense of we talked about Wukong earlier and stuff like that. Look, these deals exist, y'all. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but we got to stop with the pearl clutching that these corporations, both Xbox, they did it with Stalker, they did, you know what I'm saying? PlayStation, Stellar Blade, it happens. Mm-hmm. We have the most snitchingest developer I've ever seen. Pearl Abyss put all the business out. There's like, and they wanted us to lock it down and say no. And then here's the split. It was going to be 70. Bro, and we not like Stellar Blade because we can publish. This is, I love it because we're learning, but their snitching on the situation is absolutely hilarious. But what I do also find interesting is that they did turn it down. And the reason why they turned it down, it was kind of interesting to me too, because it kind of reminds me of kind of like the Square Enix situation in terms of like when you break down the splits and then you break down, not having it on the other platforms, the math wasn't mathing for them, right?
No, dude.
And they're betting on themselves. Like, we got some, because to your point, I watched videos of this game. It's got a little bit of Dragon's Dogma to it. It's got a lot going on to
Wild, little Assassin's Creed almost. Yeah, it looks really good. It looks
good. It looks good. So to me, this is a confident bet on themselves. Not that it would have been a bad thing if they would have took the bag from Sony. I'm not saying that. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying they were so confident in their product. It's like, now we don't want to lock it down to just y'all. We want to multi-platform this. And we did the numbers, us publishing it, it would make sense for us. So I think this is cool. And I think this, again, we're just in a different time right now. One, exclusive deals are not going to be publicly broadcasted. So this is a rarity right now that we got this information, but it's also a kind of we told you so that these things do exist. Mm-hmm. And people have to stop acting like they don't. So I'm justified with my thing. I think it's funnier because this is the most talkative developer I've ever seen. And no, other than that, I mean, it makes sense for them. And hopefully the bet pays off for them, and we'll see what happens. But I do understand the mentality, because you do either way. Because if you go with the number one platform and you get exposure on that Sony storefront, you get maybe that initial rush user base and stuff like that off the top. And hey, you want to take that confidence with that bag. Same thing with a Game Pass. Some guys like, hey, you're gonna give us a Game Pass and lock us exclusive. Okay, all right, Xbox. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna take too much to put a ring on my finger type energy. You know what I'm saying? I get it for both sides. There's pluses and minuses. And then others are like, yo, our game fire. We could do, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah, that's probably the benefit is they put out all of that gameplay. They got all of that feedback. They have data that's going to show them, like, we don't need exclusivity because exclusivity does a number of things, right? Like, I imagine in some cases, not all cases are the same. You get like a bag of some sort that's going to guarantee funds of some kind for your game. It's like, okay, so there's a safety net there. And there is the association with some platforms of like, oh, this might elevate us. Like if we're tied with PlayStation as an exclusive, or we're tied with Nintendo as an exclusive, this gets us to a new level that will maybe increase sales with that platform base. But what we're starting to see here is, as you note the breakdown, they say in a typical contract, 30% of the revenue goes to platform fees. Remaining 70% is split between the developer and the publisher. And when you really think about funding and like breaking that up, obviously if the publisher is footing the bill, then the developer might get like the even split or the lesser split of the two. And that increases the demand for sales that are required, right? Because, it might be a split where it's like the developer gets 20%, the publisher gets another 30%. And they're like, look, after that, when we reach our breaking even point, then that'll swap or something like that. And the developer will get more money out of it. And it's better just to, if you can self-publish, you cut all that bullshit out, right? You 70% clean, usually. And if you are able to negotiate as an exclusive, maybe because you're going exclusively to their platform, maybe get an 85-15 split. It reminds me a lot of MCNs on YouTube in a weird way. I actually just left mine recently, but there are different splits. Like, and if a company really wants you, like, they'll negotiate. Like for a while I was at 90-10, which for those who don't know, like 90% of what I made would go to me, 10% would just fuck off. And I was behind on the times, by the way, to be completely transparent on that. I was super behind. I talked with a bunch of YouTubers like Kev Do It, Juicehead, and they were like, dude, get out. They helped me out big time. Like really nice. Like we're transparent with numbers and everything. I was like, holy fuck, man. Nice. So they helped me out a lot. But when I was leaving, they were like aggressive with their splits. They were like, we'll do like 97-3. I'm like, no, I'm just going to go. But it reminds me a lot of that sort of interaction where like these revenue splits can, only benefit really one side, like the MCN in one case, or in the case of console manufacturers, like the platform holders, right? The PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. This is unfortunately how business is done, but we're seeing a breeze of change to the industry, and that multi-plat is a big focus now for all these companies, including Xbox, importantly. Yeah. But also that self-publishing is something a lot of companies are pursuing. We know that, like, I think Larian said they were kind of looking into that as well. Yes. And why wouldn't you? Because like these are the savvy decisions that can keep you away from like the predatory sort of monetization decisions you'll otherwise maybe feel you have to make if you're making consciously smart decisions early on to maximize the amount of money you're going to get as a company when you sell a product on the market. So I just think they're doing a good thing here. I think I like the Stellar Blade just airing that out there. Like, yeah, they signed a deal because they didn't have a publishing team like us. Like we're more equipped for that. And yeah, why wouldn't you do that if you are equipped for it? So
if you are, no, great point. And just another thing on the flip side, which again ties back to Wukong. Like, a lot of developers sometimes, they don't have the wherewithal, or they just need the help. To help. Remember, Game Science was trying to get this game out. This is their first kind of like major release, trying to get that out. And you say, hey, you know what? If you're going to help me with the development and help me publish on your platform, make it easier for us as first-time developers, that's enticing, right? I look at, again, Kunitsugami with Capcom. They needed help to finish that game. That was a risk Capcom was taking with that game. And then Xbox came and said, I think Phil Spencer, Sarah Barton came and said, look, we give you a different style of a Game Pass deal
Mhm.
where it's just like, okay, we're going to actually help you finish this game if you put this on this service and that kind of stuff. And in that case, they still was able to still be multi-plat, but everything is different. So, what I'm trying to get at is that we got to look at game development and then publishing and all this stuff. It's an individual, what's your situation kind of a deal. And once we look at it from that lens, you'll see how some of it can make sense depending on where you are and what you're capable. But clearly, Pearl Abyss is built like that.
Yeah.
Because they outside with how they moving as far as they publish it and what they're capable of.
So with all of this in mind, exclusivity
Yes.
deals and everything, this was danger close, if you will, for Xbox. This is a really great looking game that you could literally smell the PlayStation on it, and that like, oh, this is a game they would go for. This is exactly it. Like Zeitgeist was starting to get captured. It looks like it's going to be like a really big thing when it starts to come out. And it kind of had like a Black Myth Wukong feel to it. Like, oh, this is to be the thing that you want to bring yourself close to at the very least. Jez Corden had a really great, I think it was Jez Corden. Let me make sure. It was Jez Corden. Had a really great article on Windows Central talking about how he said, I would argue it's neglectful of Microsoft to even have allowed PlayStation to lock games like Silent Hill 2, Black Myth Wukong, and Final Fantasy 7 into exclusivity contracts, given the chilling effect it has had over broader customer and developer faith in the platform. Obviously, you can't win them all, but if you can't win them all, then perhaps it would be a savvy business move to seek out more of your own deals like PUBG, Stalker 2, and Palworld. Things have gotten better over the years, but Xbox should still have an answer lined up for every major piece of content that skips the Xbox platform owing to exclusionary deals. And this is all without getting into Xbox's multi-platform strategy discourse, by which Microsoft has begun giving Sony money directly to help them essentially fund these types of deals. But hey, it works both ways. Through game sales on PlayStation, Xbox should have more money of its own to fund exclusivity deals, right? So what do you think of that take there? Obviously, Jez, very close to the heart of Xbox. Do you think that, I know for a lot of people, myself included, like I saw the multi-platform, like it's over. Like they're just not going to pursue this anymore. But do you see with how PlayStation has managed to grab control of the market and has just seen the right games and continue to pick them out over and over? And honestly, it's happened so much that I didn't know until release that Silent Hill 2 wasn't coming to Xbox. I have to be honest with that. I had no idea. I thought this was multi-plat. I thought this was actually going to come to Xbox. I think it's a damn shame it's not on Xbox. It's fucking amazing video game. So what do you make of these exclusionary deals? And do you think Xbox should start to fight back? Because, I mean, they have the biggest example this year in Palworld. Palworld, I think, is still the biggest game this year. And like that is, to them, that should be a sign like there's still something here. You know, they got lucky, if you will. I put lucky in quotes because I know people really attach themselves to the ideas the game had. But like, I don't know if they signed that deal hoping, oh, this is going to be an exclusive game that's going to sell 20 plus million copies. But nonetheless, do you think they take a look at what's happening here? Just recognize like PlayStation is getting aggressive in knowing that, as we talked about Black Myth Wukong, there was whether it was a deal or not is not confirmed, although people will pretend we didn't say that, but there is a benefit to PlayStation if that were the case that Xbox is excluded. And that is part of their business model, because as you mentioned, PlayStation is the biggest part of Sony. They need to protect that brand completely, and understandably so. And their aggression is completely warranted. But Xbox kind of just chilling while it happens. I feel like it's hard to see them get back into the exclusivity game again, but it just feels, I see this constantly happening. I'm like, you're just going to let them gobble up the whole market on you on like big upcoming games? Because now they're doing it, right? That list of Silent Hill 2, Black Myth Wukong, and Final Fantasy 7, those are all big, successful games. And they were going for this next. So, and they've done it in such a great way because they've converted. I'm in agreement with you. Like Astrobot is the pinnacle first party game. I think is Apologies. I know the Sacred fan base is going to tear me apart here. And as I ask, I don't know if Arrowhead is first party. I believe it's second party. I thought it was second party as well.
I always forget.
Yeah, I thought
mentions it and I always forget.
My point being is I really look at Astrobot as like the penultimate PlayStation exclusive this year. Everything else has been third party.
You
had Concord, which was
first party,
first party, and we know how that went.
And we know how that went.
I think they've had a good year overall. When I say, again, I had the same issue you had. I spouted out one time PlayStation had a shit year. That was my fault for not really explaining, but people were like, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, first party wise, you could argue between Helldivers 2 and Astrobot. It's a great year. It's definitely better than what Xbox did. That's for sure. But, I feel like they've had better years personally. But point being is COG. Exclusive deals. Thoughts on Xbox pursuing these again with PlayStation continuously gobbling up the market?
Yeah, PlayStation's going to be aggressive. I like Microsoft in the space as far as competing for sure. You don't want to miss out on what could be potentially the next big thing. Like for example, when I look at the Wukongs and the Baldur's Gate situations or whatever, that those to me are like that cannot happen, right? Because these are clearly some of the biggest titles. But I do, in their defense, I feel they've been fighting. I feel there's been stuff that I'm like, again, we talked about Power Wheel, we talked about, certain games that we're like, all right, they are associating themselves with this game, or at minimum, the Game Pass deal, right? So you look at what's the new joint? Wu Chang, I forgot the name.
Oh, Wu Chang Fallen
Wu
Feathers.
Chang, right?
Yeah, that
That's a
looks
big deal.
fucking good.
That's a big
That
deal.
looks good, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And where I see them being aggressive, and this is going to be an interesting take to see how it works for them. They seem to be more aggressive in the AA and the indie space.
Yeah.
If you look at the indie space, they've been snatching up all of that stuff from PlayStation. Like they have tons. I remember when Death Door and Somerville and Planet Alana, and like they are making a killing in that space. So
that's a good read of the situation. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, they it's like you go big, or you want to kill them with volume, and you want to kill them with what could be the next potential thing that may be a lower risk and a lower entry cost. But if you nail a Power World, look what happens. Now that could be your Genshin Impact that you missed out on back in the day. So it's an interesting.
They've had a good success rate. You look at High on Life. You look at Power World. Yeah, they've had a good success.
AA indie.
Yeah,
they're knocking it out the park. That's where they've turned the tide. But to your point, yeah, they can't be absent, because the problem is, regardless to Black with Kong is coming, it is considered a PlayStation game right now, and you are late, right? So how does that affect you? How does that affect the zeitgeist? Are people still going to run to your platform to get it, once it's announced, or have people capitulate and say, "Hey, I'm not waiting. I'm going over there," right?
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance they have to navigate. I do think their counter to it is, it's multi-plat, but hey, we're going to give you a Game Pass bag or some of these things here as well. So we'll see. But it's a tough one.
I think they, for lack of a better term, this is sound a little disrespectful, but for lack of a better term, they have to get away from the loser energy that kind of follows them. For example, you missed Silent Hill 2, but don't worry, the partner preview, Bloober Team's next game is here. This one will hit the platform because we're going to announce it. It's like, it gives, and I think this one was a little out of the control. It's a little bit of an unfair example because they were in such close proximity to each other that I don't know if it was mapped out that way. But anyway, it happens. You look at it, and you go, oh, it kind of gives the energy of like, oh, okay, like, oh, they're making good games. We're here now, guys. We're here now. It's like, how are you not there? And like, how did PlayStation get a Silent Hill 2 deal? And also, I'm a little surprised that Konami swung for a an exclusive deal on that one. At least console exclusivity. Very surprised by that. Yeah. And I think Nintendo probably will have to be on watch, because if the new Switch, I think Jez actually, I saw him mention Switch too, so it's on my head. I don't know if he does bring it up in this reference, but when the new Switch is much more powerful, PlayStation's going to start affecting them too with these types of deals, because the Switch 2 is rumored to be as powerful as like a PS4, and that is something. And so if PlayStation is gobbling up their potential customers too, now it's going to really, and then Xbox, and I mean, if PlayStation and Nintendo, the two exclusive warlords, go at it, where does that put Xbox in the market, right? So I think about that, and I worry a little bit about that, with that, again, lack of better terms, loser energy, where it's like, come on, don't Mets us here. But you have a really great point in their focus on AA and indie. And I had not really thought about how effective that has really been for them, especially for Game Pass. That's what's really pounded the service with new games is the indie and AA space. It's been exciting for the most part. Wu Chang is also a great example. That's a big win. I talked about it in our last episode. Like that's the game you look at, you go, they missed that. They missed that every fucking time. So that's a step forward in that direction as well.
Yeah, I agree. And then you look at, obviously, what's coming up with them. Obviously, you got the Black Ops, you got Indie, and then you got Stalker, right? Stalker is another one that is in the mix. And if what I'm hearing, is comes out to be, as far as I know, I've heard great things about performance. I'm hearing great things about previews. This could be one that wins for them. But yeah, I'm still with you in the sense that you have to be careful, because Sony is shooting, they're going for the home runs.
Yeah.
They're going for whatever is the biggest thing that could be the zeitgeist thing, and they tend to be extremely aggressive and nail it most times.
Hogwarts
So
Legacy was another one. Like, just
that's
they're
the
like
thing.
fucking snipers, dude.
Yeah, bro, and you still got to be in the mix, is what I'm kind of saying, because you don't want the biggest games of the year not somehow associated with you.
Yeah,
that you can't miss out too many of those.
Agreed.
That kind of thing.
Agreed. All right, Cog. Next one here is a fun bit of speculation. As reported by GameFile, Netflix Games has shut down their AAA game development studio called Team Blue. This means that Halo Infinite's former campaign project lead and renowned Bungie veteran and Joseph Staten is now a free agent. Now, Jez Corden did have a comment on his personal Twitter account saying, for those asking me right now, as of this second of writing, I'm not hearing any evidence to suggest Joe Staten has returned to Xbox or Halo Studios after the closure of the Netflix AAA team for now. So right away, everyone was like, he's got to go back. Cog, does he go back? The rebranding is here. Does Staten make a return at the start of a bunch of new Halo projects and help before he has to come in and land the plane, right? Because it's on fire. Like, does he come in nice and early before this thing sets ablaze and gets all rickety? What are our thoughts here? Of course, on what happened with Netflix games, unfortunately, shutting down their AAA division, but Joe Staten being a free agent.
The legend's available. The legend's available, man. Look, I don't know how this thing closed down between, both of them, and obviously, the Bonnie Ross firing, then the restructure, and Pierre Heinz now is in there. Now they've restructured again. It's Halo Studios. There's 2 teams, multiple projects. I get it. There's a lot of change, but you pick up that damn phone. I don't care. You pick up. I don't want to hear about anything. You let that man tell you, I don't want to come, or hey, I'm going to take time with my family. You pick up that damn phone, because I'm gonna tell you why. This man, we gonna give Staten his due. This is OG Bungie. This is back in the day demoing Halo for you on an E3 stage. Number 2, not only knows Halo and what it takes to be a good Halo, saved your bacon from the Craig fiasco. This man came off he was at Xbox. He offered his services to say, hey, heard you guys getting shellacked in the media. Do you need a little help or anything? Could I offer my assistance? That's what he went to Bonnie, and then Bonnie and them brought him in. You pick up the phone. That's all I'm saying. Let that man tell you he don't want to do it. But I would be very disappointed if I hear they don't feel that they need to call him. They don't feel that they need a place for him in that. No. Pick up the phone. Pierre, Phil, Sarah, pick up the phone. That's Joe Staten. I don't care what nobody. That is a veteran, and he understands. And if you put it this way, if you feel it's gonna step on toes because we've already got a structure, then you give him his own part of Halo Studios and let him work on his own project. Since y'all like multiple projects, y'all all about multiple projects. Let's get another with Staten's vision. Come on, man. Like I will be very upset if I hear that this man was not treated with the utmost respect, or at least got the courtesy call. Because sometimes Xbox don't like to call people. they forget to respond to emails and calls. Call that man, please. That's all I got to say. I'm very passionate. Yes, I'm biased. I love Joe Staten, but he's a great mind. And he's a person that if he wants to do Halo, he deserves to do Halo. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'll be surprised if he wants to come back.
Ooh.
I don't think he wants to come back, dude. Like he did his thing. He was like, that was a shit show. I'm going to go work for Netflix, which, by the way, I remember when that news broke, you and I sat here and our words were, go get your bag. We'll see you later. That was the energy we had. Like we knew, I don't wish ill on him or the team, but we knew this it was not going anywhere fast, and that this man was in for potentially a huge paycheck, right? To command him to basically leave Halo behind and go do this. Or maybe the project did it authentically excite him. I could be assuming wrong, but I don't know if he wants to go back to what was previously a mess. But this is the thing that he's been attached to his whole life. So it's a partnership that makes sense, but it's probably time for a little soul searching, right? You land the plane with Infinite, you go through its post-launch, you leave for this new adventure, you're excited about it. that doesn't go well, do you go back to like the thing you always knew, or do you try something different on your own? Do you start
Yeah.
calling the shots instead and try
Yeah.
to decouple yourself from a thing like Netflix and go for an actual like funder of video games that has an investment in the AAA space? I don't know. There's a lot of people who are going to want his talents. There's a lot of people who are going
Oh, for
to,
sure.
and so he can command a lot of attention, but I don't know if he goes back to Halo Studios, right? Like they seem to have the
Mhm.
wheels in motion.
Yeah.
It would be great to have him. I wouldn't hate if he came back, but I would be surprised for sure.
Or remember before he wasn't really working on 343. I believe he was in another Xbox subdivision during that time, and then they kind of brought him in and then made him reorganized him back
That's true.
into 343. So look, I mean, what if the man won a studio? What if the man I'm just pick up the phone, man. Pick up the phone.
Get the
Let
conversation
that
going.
man tell you that he don't want to work with you no more.
Yeah.
But pick up the phone. I would hate to hear that they did not do their due diligence.
Yeah, I agree. That's the most important part is that if they check in, and get rejected, at least they checked, right? That's all. It reminds me a lot of what I said about KOTOR and its remake. It's like, you let PlayStation get KOTOR remake. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that game will end up multi-plat, of course, but at starting point, that they let that one slip. So hopefully that trend is not continuing here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cog, last bit of news here. We'll get into our Game Pass pick of the week. Fallout Day was the first one ever. It was a showcase / stream featuring 76 updates, and that was it, alongside some charity stuff. Now, there's a couple of things I got to say before we kind of get into the thick of what little was there, which is that this is a big deal for the Fallout fandom. I'll explain why really quickly. People have been begging Bethesda to do this for a while. Like, hey, October 23rd, the Great War date. This is the perfect day for us to have like, I forgot what they call it for The Last of Us, like the breakout day or N7 day for BioWare. Like all these have their days and they celebrate their community and they make announcements and that sort of thing. And people have been begging Bethesda, like, hey man, this is your day for Fallout to like do something with it. So this year they kind of suddenly go, like, we got a Fallout Day stream.
First one
ever. And they kept saying like first ever, suggesting there will be more. So I was like, okay, like this is what we've wanted. I don't have high expectations though, because we just had the Fallout TV show. You have Fallout 76 being supported. I think it's too early for something like Fallout 3 Remaster because I think Oblivion comes first. You're not going to get Fallout 5 here. Like there's not much for them to show off. But Bethesda does say, hey, tune in for 76 and even more surprises. I'm like, okay. All right. Like you got something, it sounds like. So I watch it through a 20-minute stream. 76 gets updates like, oh, we're bringing pets to camps. They're doing a raid called the Gleaming Depths or something like that, which was interesting because they're like, hey, it's full co-op. Lots of like interacting with the environment while your companions are doing X, Y, and Z. Remind me a little bit of what they, Destiny is doing. And they say like high difficulty, like all of your teammates are going to be stacked up with gear, that sort of thing. They talked a bit about their 2025 plans for 76. Like, oh, here's the ghoul, this playable race. You'll do a quest where you'll become a ghoul. And then from there, you'll have ghoul perk cards. They didn't really get into the thick of details, though, of like, apparently NPCs interact with you differently. Like they won't give you quests, but there's a quote way around that, but they don't show that. They didn't really show much of this in action other than like, we'll talk more about it in the coming months. I'm like, okay, this is like your chance to, you're commanding an audience. Like this is your chance to talk about this and then some. So I'm thinking like, well, they're going to talk about more about their 2025 roadmap and plans, like one big announcement of some kind, right? Nope. Not even that for 76, which was that was the dumbest thing that they did. I really think it's not about what they do with like, I was not expecting a new Fallout game of any kind here. And anyone who did is not paying attention and fooled themselves completely. I will say, I thought maybe a season 2 teaser could have happened, just like an image. I felt like that would have been fair. Nothing on that. And they even got the bait and switch, bro. I'll get to my original point in a sec. They got the bait and switch when they had like a setup for just one more thing. Like they're like, we don't want to let you go just yet. So they circle the developers. They're all talking about what Fallout means to them. You see a little screen cut and then it loads back in. It's God Howard.
Oh, God Howard was outside?
Yeah, he was there to end the stream. And I'm like, oh, they're going to announce.
Wow.
I'm like, I got a little excited. I was like, they're going to announce something. It's probably going to be small, but this man doesn't just show for nothing. He showed up for nothing. He said, all right, thanks y'all for tuning in. Catch you later.
He hit you with the Russell Simmons. Thank y'all for coming out. Good night.
Yeah.
Def Jam and he come.
Yeah, literally. Thank you guys for supporting us. It was great doing this. By the way, it wasn't in any other parts of the stream. So when he showed up, it was like a moment. It was like, oh, okay, cool. And he shows up. He's like, thanks, guys. All right, bye. Like, damn, man. Damn.
God came outside.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But to my original point, the biggest misstep was that 76, as it's commanding a really big audience now, the Fallout TV shows helped it out a lot. This was a good opportunity while you're commanding an audience who's like, what is a Fallout Day stream like? To go ahead and say, like, here's all of our plans for 76. Maybe not everything, but like to just kind of retread old ground of like, here's what we're doing in December, which we mostly knew about. And here's what we're doing with the Ghoul, which we already knew about. And nothing else. Oh, they teased fishing is coming to the game. Dude, what the come on, man. Like, and the only thing I'll say is, you know what it gave me energy of, Cog, and I want to get your thoughts after. It gave me Xbox Developer Direct #1 vibes. A format that you look at and you go like, okay, I see the vision. Like, they had good humor. They had good energy. Like, everything was good. The format, the flow, all good. But if you really look at all of our developer directs and you look at the games that were in the first direct, it was a shit show. It was like, here's Minecraft Legends and Elder Scrolls Online. Like, but Xbox fans were looking for a format to believe in. It was phenomenal. It was like, okay, we'll take what we can get here, right? And that's a little bit of my approach is like, all right, if this is what Fallout Day streams are going to look like, I like the energy. I like the presentation. I love the celebration, the focus on the community and mixing in announcements. It's like, okay, this is the template.
Yes.
Next year, hopefully we'll have more announcements. But man, this year, it's like, it's your first one and you had nothing of significance, not even for 76. Nothing of significance. It is very perplexing, man. Very perplexing how they handled it, how they managed parts of it. But those are my thoughts on it. It was a lot of nothing. It really was a lot of nothing. And my expectations were in a good place. I was like, I'm not expecting much, but I thought at least for 76, you'd give us a little bit more, but nope.
No, something more. Not. So something
else. To check this out.
Yeah, I did. I watched about, the first 15, 20 minutes of it. Look, the thing that they're going to have to deal with is the fact that they are, like, Fallout is, as hot as fish grease right now, right? So I get it. 76 doing well. It's the resurgence. We know we're going to see it, right? Now, I know the hardcore may not, be, so crazy about it all the time as it being Fallout Day. It's the only thing associated with Fallout is Fallout 76. I get that frustration, but, they're going to talk about the content. Where I was disappointed was, I was like, man, I thought I'll say frustration, but I'm like, when are they going to start talking about cross progression with 76? Because that is a really needed feature. There's a lot of people that want to play on different platforms and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, man, that was a missed opportunity. So what this stream showed me is that, look, they understand the importance of having a Fallout Day, which is important, right? So it's what you said. It's like an Xbox Developer Direct. We have a template now. We're going to do fun. We're going to do goofy. We're going to have, the Pip-Boy and running around, or the little cartoons and all the stuff that is with the vibe that you love, right? They've got that down. To me, they just show that the stuff that we want is still not ready yet. And they're not ready to talk about that just yet. Now, I will agree. Don't roll God Howard out here and not give us something. Like, you got to give us something, right? You know what I'm saying? Don't hit me with the Russell Simmons. Don't hit me with the thank y'all for coming out. Good night. Def Comedy Jam situation. Give us something there. Look, would it unrealistic to say, new Fallout game? Probably so.
Completely unrealistic. Yeah. Like, anyone who was like, I saw some comments like, yo, I was hyped for nothing. I'm like, why were you hyped, man? Like, I get it, but like, there's a level of like, we can only blame any company for so much before it falls to us. And like, that was one of those things where it's like, come on, man. Like, there wasn't a tremendous level of fucking things to be excited for here. There was no rumors, no leaks, no nothing. It just kind of showed up. So
yeah, to me, this was like, look, we understand that we need to do a day like this. We need to have our N7. We're gonna do it, and I just think this is the building blocks for something like that. I did like the raid stuff, though. I'm a Destiny guy, I'm biased, so I'm like, ooh, hardcore content. Where let's be honest, the hardcore guys are leveled up. They're breezing through a lot of the content. This is end game. I like when you now work on an end game in your MMO. I think that's dope. So I want to give them some credit there. And then obviously they had the sales and stuff like that. But yeah, there's still obviously missed opportunities and things they could
Yeah,
have
like
talked about.
again, I don't even bitch up a storm. Like I fully expected to be 76, but as someone who's like, oh, Skyline Valley was actually really good, like their best update since Wastelanders. Like, what's next? Right? Like, what's the next
Yeah.
big thing? They're like, here's a raid for our endgame players. Like the tough balance this game has to strike, and I sympathize for them. Is like you have a hardcore community who has done everything and is like, we need endgame content, right? Like they need stuff to
Those are the
play, and
day
this is
ones.
that. At the same
Yeah.
time, you got people like me who I don't know if they represent the broader part of the Fallout fandom or not. I think so. Who are like, what's my next adventure? What's my
True.
next story?
True.
And they've tried to find middle ground. Like, here's an expedition, which is a story that functions like a raid. I'm definitely interested in the raid. I will never play it though, just because I don't play enough 76 to be of a high enough level to have all the resources for it. I don't have friends to play it with. You know, no one's really interested in it, and I just go in for the story stuff. Like that's what I'm there for. But you know, I'm definitely happy for like the long term fans. They got something there, but I just think being cagey about 2025 was a mistake. I do think they just holding again. People think I'll probably be upset about holding announcements for like 3 new remastered. Like no, not even close. It's just like holding 76 information is crazy to me. I just feel like there was so much more to be talked about. And honestly, the Austin team, this is the first time they're kind of on the stage. Very charming team. Like,
Yeah,
really
like
good presentation, really good humor. Like, they're great. I was like, wow, this is awesome. But like, you don't really get a feel otherwise of like, you know, what else are they working on? Like, I wanted to get to know what they're passionate about more. And that was frustrating. I don't know. I wish for a little bit more for sure.
I think the fair assessment is it is fair to be like, man, I was hoping for a roadmap of what's the next adventure in 76. If this was going to be 76 focus, which we're going to be realistic, is most likely going to be this event. You know, damn, like what's the next joint? You know what I'm saying? Give us a tease on where we may be going. I think that is absolutely fair because Destiny fans, we go through that too. We like, yo, tell us, yeah, that's cool with this endgame thing. That's cool. What's the next thing? Because that's what keeps the train going. That keeps the excitement. You always give a MMO or a looter shooter the incentive, the next carrot to stay on the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's where they kind of missed on that point. So I will give you that.
Even if it wasn't that, it was just like a tease of like
a tease.
You know, the fact the only tease thing was fishing. I'm like,
yeah. And it's like, okay.
Like you guys have 5 years of content planned, apparently. You don't have anything from what's in that next year to show beyond the Ghoul, which we knew about in June already.
Fair. I think the way I see them is that they have their roadmap as to when they're going to announce that. And it wasn't for this show, unfortunately. Not saying that was the correct decision.
Yeah.
But
they have a place for it, though.
They got it. It's just that whatever this, I don't know if it's what's the next event, you know, maybe there's a developer direct at the top of, you know, January 25. And they're like, okay, that's when we're going to start talking about it. We're ready to show then kind of thing. And to me, this was like, we are going to finally shut y'all up and do the thing that y'all say we never do and celebrate our greatness the way y'all want. This is that. Let's get it out. Let's get a format. Let's get a template. Yay, guy. It reminded me of, what was that joint that came out? It used to be terrible. I couldn't stand it. Was it Inside Xbox?
Yeah.
Like, before Developer Direct happened, there was Inside Xbox. Like, this is them getting their feet. But this is way better than Inside Xbox.
Yeah, no, the presentation was good. It's just...
Yeah, this was good.
Normally what happens when when you start Developer Direct, it's like, we have stuff to talk about, right? So when this happened, it's like, we have stuff to talk about, right? And when you go in and you don't really have much to talk about, I'm like, you know.
Maybe the date didn't coincide with actually showcasing a vertical slice of the hot stuff. It just probably didn't coincide. That's what I think. But we'll see. But I feel you.
All right. Well, now, Cog, let's talk about our Game Pass pick of the week. Sir, you have quite the selection here. Quite the selection indeed.
Yeah, man. It's about that time. You know, obviously, I'm all wrapped up with Metaphor. I mean, not wrapped up. I'm all wrapped in Metaphor, excuse me. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to have time for anything else. There is one game that will get me to break away just because I've been following this thing, right? And it's Dragon's Age. It's Dragon's Age. And look, I know Inquisition is not the most popular game from the, franchise. I get it. You know, a lot of the core things got changed. But I like the story of the Inquisitor. I like, using that power that you have and getting things out of the Fade and the portals that's coming in from the Veil. And as a person who right now is getting ready for the end of the month for Veilguard, I wanted to refresh myself very quickly as far as the Soulless character. And one of the DLCs that really did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, was the Trespasser DLC. And I wanted, from a story and a lore standpoint, to get because it's been a while. I'm like, I want every single detail. And the reason why this DLC really reminded me on how well written this character is. This character, I've never really seen a game do this without spoiling too much. It's actually kind of spoiled already in Veilguard.
It's spoiled by existence
okay,
of
cool.
Veilguard. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, so I'm good. Like, the way they did this story was, I've never seen it. Like, someone you rocking with for a long ends up becoming the villain. Mm-hmm. Like, I've never seen it. And it was done in a not a cheap way. It was done in a, he still kind of got love for you, but he gonna do what he gotta do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I thought the Soulless character is just an amazing thing. So I wanted to get back to that story. I wanted to revisit, that DLC, and it was dope. It was just the whole threatening a couple of years after the main story passed, and them threatening the you bringing the team of the Inquisition together,
yeah.
And then you having your moment, with the council, and then checking them. And look, if you played this game, I would highly advise you to go back to it just to get a refresher. If you haven't played the game, it is a good game. I always felt that it gets a bad rap. And for the record right now, FPS boost on the Series X, auto HDR.
I didn't know about
that. I mean? So you're getting a nice experience now. If you've never played it and you're like, hey, you know what? What is it? You got obviously it's not much time, you know what I'm saying? But, if you want to just refresh and just kind of feel what it was about, it was a decent thing. I felt, the romances were handled. I got to give credit. Look, I love Mass Effect, but I felt in Inquisition, this was the best handling. As the romance guy, this was the best handling of romance I've ever seen in a video game, was Dragon Age Inquisition, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Veilguard. I don't know. There's conflicting reports. I'm just pulling for it because I know if Veilguard succeeds, I get a Mass Effect. So I'm hopeful. Maybe it's received. My only thing with Veilguard right now is that when I look at it, the faces look very soft, what I'm saying, kind of thing. And my only fear is that what I like about Inquisition is that it's a very rough and tumble. The Canary look like they seem to be going into this softer Disney flow face thing. Yeah. And that right now is a little off-putting. From what I've seen from Veilguard, combat-wise, look good. And I'm just hoping, from what I hear, they nailed the story. All I care about is this journey and this story, and is it fun? And if they nail the story and execute, then all will be forgiven with faces and all the other stuff that's going on, controversy around the game. And that's all I care. I always like Inquisition for the story. And also Inquisition had like a lot of French influences, as design and the masks and
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of, I feel France when I play this game. You know what I'm saying?
Or
yes, good call out. Yeah, man. So again, it was just a unique experience, and it still had great choice and consequence. Great, people will be pissed off.
Unfortunately, some of those choices aren't carrying over into Veilguard, which is like, to me, that really put a dagger in my hype, bro. No Well of Sorrows. Like, I was like, what? Like, that's a fucking major choice. And Inquisition, like, I don't know.
Major. And then, maybe they were just too scared to apply the Mass Effect DNA, which is that carryover. Now we do hear the rumor.
Tight spot because of that, though, dude. Like, I just gotta say, because they already had a lot of people against them, and the Dragon Age fans are like, well, we're still here because it's our adventure that we've been on. And when you saw the keep decisions got revealed, and they were like, we got 3 for you, it was like a scary realization of like, oh no.
Yeah, I know, and that's a fair criticism. They're gonna have to navigate that. I think that.
I don't know if they can. Not even considering the story, right?
Non-spoiler. This has already been revealed, so I'm not snitching. The Inquisitor, from what I hear, is going to be there. So the sad
Yeah,
part
he's one
about
of
it is
they're one of the choices you make in the keep. I think
nice.
IGN.
Okay, they said it. Okay. Yeah, and that listen, I do like that aspect, even though they're not going all the way or the Mass Effect where you really carry over in every choice and every like that's where it should have been, right? So being that they're not doing it, they're doing this, okay, he's still gonna be there. I want to see how they handle that because this was a character I grew up with, and this was my version, this was my Inquisitor. So, I want to see how they handle that. So look, Veilguard's coming. I got caught up in the hype cycle. My pick of the week is Inquisition. It is Trespasser DLC specifically because the story of Solus, the Dreadwolf, is one of the dopest stories.
It's very
And
good.
that's what I'm hype about for Veilguard. That's my only thing. It's keeping my excitement. Please give this character the proper justice and send off, and I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, because for those who have not played the Trespasser DLC, it really is the true ending to the game. I remember I always shit on Inquisition, and then Jackdaw, who's a Dragon Age YouTuber, reached out to me. He was like, dude, like you should really try it again with the Trespasser DLC because that's like the real ending. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. And it really is like, where Inquisition ends up versus where Trespasser ends up, night and day. And it's what sets up Veilguard completely. So
Yeah,
definitely a good pick. Definitely good timing for that pick as well.
Yeah, I was ready. I caught up the hype cycle.
Well, we have one other Game Pass pick of the week from John Hank, and then we'll get into our final question of the show. John writes, hey, Dukes, Dead by Daylight is my Game Pass pick of the week for the spooky season. This game is a sneaky, successful, long-running live service game with a lot of content. Many licensed horror characters are in the game, including Mike Myers, Alan Wake, Leon Kennedy, Ghostface, etc. Unfortunately, a lot of them are behind a paywall. If you like horror games and asymmetric multiplayer games, I think there is a fun gameplay loop to jump in and out of. I have played the game casually for the last couple of years on and off, and the basic mechanics aren't that overwhelming as long as you're not trying, to go into ranked. I hope you have my 7-hour long Steam Deck session on my flight didn't sync to the cloud and was lost kind of day. Cog, that sounds like your worst nightmare.
Yep.
That is awful.
Bro, that's painful. When you don't do that, you are angry. I make sure that's a prerequisite before any flight, boy.
100%.
Do that.
Thank you, John, for your Game Pass pick of the week.
Salute.
And with that, we get into our last question of the show, Cog.
Yes, sir.
This one's from me and really Gene, I suppose, but Cog, I want to get you in on this as well. Joshua Anderson writes in, sup, fellas, simple question. Both Maddie and now Gene have expressed their exhaustion with third-person, over-the-shoulder action games on PS5. To which I ask, why no exhaustion with all of the Xbox first-person shooters? It's literally the shooter box now, which for me hinders what I can play because FPSs give me motion sickness. And I'm far from alone on that. So what gives? Good right in here. So there's a number of things. Number one, mechanically speaking, a lot of these third-person over-the-shoulder games, when I think of it, I think of open world. I think of like 50 hours of content. All of it's a checklist, and very little of it is of interest to me. And that is why it takes a game like Ghost of Tsushima, which I think rethought the formula in really intelligent ways on how you navigate that world with the guiding wind and the activities you do within it, whether you're bathing butt-ass naked or writing haikus. These are just simple things that get me back on board. Plus, the combat was really good with the multiple stances. So that worked for me. Shooters are what I was born and raised on, man. Like, I love a good first-person shooter. Why is that? Because it's the immersive quality. So for me, obviously, first-person RPGs are like where I thrive. Fallout, hello. So it just brings me in the world more. Like, I love more than anything seeing the game through the character's eyes. That brings me in more than anything else. Cyberpunk is another perfect example. And I think that first-person is still an area that I don't want to say we're figuring things out in, but like for like first person sword fighting and what that's like. And we've done first person parkour, like and I'm sure that Joshua, if you get motion sickness from shooter, do not blame me.
Motion sickness.
You'll be upside down in your chair in a moment. But I just love seeing how that genre is explored. Where I feel like third person, we went through this phase. You especially learn it like through when I've been doing Retro Rebound, like how long it took us to figure out like third person camera movement and like cover mechanics. Like if you play Resident Evil 6, you'll see how bad the controls are for third person shooting and aiming and taking cover and just camera movement in general. But once we figured it out, it's kind of stayed. Like it's just been that where I feel like first person still has found new mechanics, new ways to grow. Like I was playing, I think it was Signalis, I want to say was the game. And this is very much like your clearly inspired by Silent Hill, PS1 style horror game. Also kind of like Resident Evil, like set camera angles, that sort of thing. But then there's a part in the game where it switches to first person, and it's like instantly a good change up, good immersive quality. And I think what works for me in first person is because I'm limited on what I can see when I see my character. It's more exciting. Like in Cyberpunk, I won't spoil when, but there's a cutscene, you see your character in third person. I'm like, oh shit. Or when you see them in like the mirror, I don't know. It just adds a lot to the immersive quality for me. But I don't know. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you. This is an unfortunate part about podcasting and doing a lot of content is I'm learning, not even learning. I've known this for a while, but I always assume it's obvious, but I probably shouldn't assume. And so I've started to clarify it. Like when I speak on subjects, I know it's my job to inform and educate as well as entertain. But I think a lot of people think when I drop my opinions of any kind, I'm here to convince you to think and feel how I do. And that would be extremely boring. I ask you, please do not. And please do not receive what I say as like a convincing of that. So when I get like a challenge like this, well, why no exhaustion for Xbox and their first person shooters? Well, it's like, I don't know. Like, am I bugging? Like, when was like Xbox first person shooters, right? Of course, we're thinking Halo. We're thinking of like what they did during the 360 gen, but I feel like they've kind of decoupled themselves this generation from the shooter box mantra. Like, I don't really associate them with that fully, but I'm trying to think in my head if I'm missing anything.
I get it. I think what it is they definitely decoupled themselves as far as from a genre standpoint. They have to be the most style of genre games on the platform. However, in defense of Joshua, if you want to look at their major franchises outside of Gears, you can say, okay, Halo, yes. The Bethesda games right now tend to be, but then Starfield is kind of mixed because it's like you can play it third person, you can play it for, Valve seems to be, first person. So I guess, and then you got Hellblade. It's weird. I will say this: they are. If I had to put a percentage, and I would guess, I would still say the percentage probably. Let's say it's 60% still FPS as far as their dominant thing. But it's, in my opinion, it's more closer than PlayStation when you look at their portfolio.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's more of a 70%, maybe 80%, third person over the shoulder, very cinematic, and people love that. We get it. To me, you know what this conversation reminds me of? The whole discussion regarding Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And how what you said is a good point. Like I feel like at least they're trying to be creative in the space of first person to do
That's such a
different
great
things.
example. Like the way you're using the whip. I'm like, how do you do that in first person? Like that is exactly it. It's like that just does something for me, maybe more than other
Right.
games. Like, of course you can do in third person, but the challenge is mixing these two with like what Machine
Correct.
Games is known for and what they develop and what you'd expect from a game with a very popular character like Indy.
Mhm. Right. No, exactly. And that's what excites me. But I'm going to use E as a test bed. Like I remember speaking to him and, and a couple of guys that are, kind of PlayStation centric guys that really like PlayStation third person games. And like, man, I was just hoping
Mhm.
it would be him. And I'm like, well, you could still see they taking check, when he's traversing, you see, he's like, yeah, but I kind of don't want to go back and forth. I want it to be, what I'm saying? So I get it. And some people really marry themselves into the seeing of your character. And I
Yeah,
get that too.
totally.
And in fairness to Joshua, I always press Xbox on, hey, we need more hashtag just ones. We need more of those so that people can have, that experience as well. So
Yeah.
I get it, what I'm saying, kind of thing. But I do lean with your thinking overall. That I feel like it's a little more balanced on the Xbox platform in terms of the style of genre of games, as opposed to when you look at the majority of the PlayStation hits, they tend to be more third person over the shoulder.
100%. So, Joshua, hopefully that answer suffices. Thank you for writing, and we appreciate you. And Cog, that's it. That's the show, man. Time to wrap it up. What are we feeling for a hashtag this week?
Ooh, good one. This was a good one. We had the whole Crimson Desert joint was good. We had a lot of good ones, man. I'm trying to think if we go with that one, what we going with?
Oh man, let's see
That was the
here.
lead.
Free agent DD kind of. I like that one.
Ooh. I feel like we haven't used free agent before. Is this
Have
new?
we?
Have we? Maybe we haven't. Maybe I don't know why I thought we did. No, free agent. Then I like free agent DD.
Yeah, I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I like
All
that.
right, ladies and gentlemen. You got this deep
Mhm.
into the show. First off, thank you for listening to all of us
Ooh.
hooting and hollering into your ears about gaming and whatnot. We appreciate you. But of course, if you want to go that extra mile, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and check us out on Twitter at G27status, at Lord Cognito. You can tag us with the hashtag FreeAgentDD. We appreciate you immensely for all you do for our community. So let us know. Otherwise, comments down below, FreeAgentDD. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. And with that, Cog, we are out of here. Any final words, sir?
No, good show, man. Love the topics today. Shout out to the LSM fam, defining realm of the Dukes with the great questions, challenging, funny, all that, man. I love that type of engagement that we get. We're very blessed with the community we have. I want to shout out my mans. You know what I'm saying? I finally brought rocking my Duke cup today that we got from back in one of the shows, the live shows. And I love this thing, man. So salute to LSM, man. Always showing love.
Right on. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you had a great time with our show, and we'll catch you next week with episode 200 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Until then, take great care of yourselves and peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.